Okay, great. Morning, everyone. My name is Nathaniel. I'm so excited to have us come for this event today, which is the second Agribusiness Networking Investors Forum on the share sector. This event has been put together by the Nigeria Agribusiness Register in collaboration with National Share Products Association of Nigeria, NASPAN. I want to believe everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Perfect. Perfect. Now, without wasting much time, I would like us to have an overview of the participants' profile who have registered for this event. Of all the registrants that registered for this event, 83% of them are share operators. Government agency is 3%. Fund managers, they are 5%. Technical assistance provider, they are 3%. And then potential investors are 3% out of a total of 835 share operators that registered for this event. Thank you so much for the time that you've given us for this event. Now, I'll do a further breakdown of the share operators that registered for this event. 37% of the share operators that registered for this event seek to either buy or sell share produce or products. 34% of the share operators that registered for this event are new processing projects seeking impact funds. 29% of them are existing share operators seeking credit from 5 million naira and above. Now we'll quickly look at the overview of participants' expectation for this event. So what you're going to hear is just a spontaneous response from the that registered for this event. 80% want to acquire more knowledge about the share value chain and also have market linkage or market access, 80% of them. 20% of them want to meet investors or fund providers. 67% of the participating share operators that registered for this event require technical assistance across various areas. For want of time, I may not want to mention all the areas, but 67% of them require technical assistance. Now, participation location in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. We have registration coming from Abuja, Gombe State, Lagos, Kebbi, Oyo. We have others from Ogun, Enugu, Niger, Taraba, Benin. Outside Nigeria, we have Dubai, we have Brazil, and then we also have from India. So these are the various categories of people that we're going to be meeting today. Now, before I quickly hand over to the next person, quick information that we have a chat function. There's a chat function on this webinar. In case you have a question you want to ask, in case you have a question or anything you want to say, you can identify by making that comment using the chat function. We'll also request that you kindly submit or write in through the chat function your email, your contact details basically, which include the name of your organization, your name, your phone number, and then your email. And then if you have any question, there's a raise hand function also. You can just indicate, you just click there, and then once you do that, you'll be attended to appropriately. Once again, thank you very much for taking our time to be part of this event. To move forward, welcome to give welcome address, the founder and director of the Nigeria Agribusiness Register, Mr. Roland Oro.
Okay, thank you so much, Nat, for that opening remarks.
Mr. Roland, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to speak now. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I need somebody to indicate. Can you hear me, please?
I can hear you.
Okay, fine. Thank you. All right. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roland Oro, founder and director of the Nigeria Agribusiness Register. Once again, we want to thank everyone for taking out time to join us today. This is the second edition of the Share Investors Forum. The first edition was held last year, June last year, and we had a very good turnout. And this is a follow-up to the event of last year. And we are set now to begin to activate some of the points that came up at the last event. The focus of the Nigeria Agribusiness Register is investment facilitation and access to market. And today, the focus of this event is on access to market and access to finance. You can see, if you look at the agenda that we have a lineup of activities that is geared towards these two objectives, namely helping actors, stakeholders within the share value chain to access market. There's going to be a panel session on trading share notes in the Nigerian commodity exchanges. We're looking this is in partnership with NASPAN to see how trading share butter products can increase access to market for the actors in the industry. I'm going to be doing a presentation and a discussion on a proposed Nigerian share butter market access program. Again, like I said, the focus today is on access to market and access to finance. So this presentation is aimed at eliciting response from stakeholders. It's a concept that the Commodities Development Initiative, CDI, is partnering with NASPAN to put in place because from the consultations we've had in the industry, a lot of people really need access to market. Access to market is a major issue right now. So NASPAN and CDI were working together to find a solution to this issue. So I'm going to do a presentation and hoping to get feedback and inputs from all of you on how we can formulate this program so that it will ease the pain of of assessing market for products. Still on the agenda, we're going to have a presentation from the Global Share Alliance. We have with us today the Deputy Managing Director, Wumi Osholake. She's going to be giving a presentation, along the areas of access to market and some other programs that GSA is involved in. That is of benefit to the Nigerian stakeholders. So let's look forward to that presentation. I'm glad to inform you that we have with us Mr. Olumide Lawson, who is a partner in Sahel Capital Agribusiness Managers Limited. He's going to be doing a presentation on what funds look for before making investment. You recall that Sahel made an investment in Lad Group last year. So they have gotten an experience in investing in share projects. So we're going to hear from them, what they look out for, so that not only Sahel, there could be other fund managers, that people need to be aware of that are also interested in investing in the share industry. We are looking forward to having presentation from some of our state government colleagues and partners. We look forward to that. And then lastly, I'll be doing a presentation on the value of the power of value creation, something that I think will benefit all of us. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the rundown today. We are looking forward to a very good time. Will not take much of your time. We're hoping to spend like 2.5 hours, on this session. So the point here is that it's not just talking. We want to put words, want to put action to the words. So coming out from this meeting today, we're hoping to have some actionable steps. We're going to take some actionable steps to put into action some of the outcomes of the meeting today, so that by the time we meet next year, we'll be looking at what what we have achieved over the last couple of months. So with this, I would like to welcome you again, and I want to encourage you to feel free to use the chat function. Introduce yourself. If you have something that is of benefit to the stakeholders, either as a product or a service, please feel free to let people be aware of it. You can use the chat function to communicate, put your contact details. We're going to have follow-on meetings after this meeting. There's some of you who indicated interest to engage, with fund managers. We're going to, have one-on-one meetings with you. We couldn't have the deal room as planned because we didn't have enough, traffic on that. So we're going to be having one-on-one consultations and follow-on meetings with some of you. So with that, I would like to hand it over to the president of NASPAN, Mr. Mohamed Kotangura, for his welcome remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roland. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mohamed Ahmed Kwantagora. I'm the president of National Shea Product Association of Nigeria, NASPAN. NASPAN is an umbrella body of all actors across the entire shea value chain in Nigeria. We are a body that come together to be able to promote the sector. Of course, the shea sector in Nigeria is an emerging one. So the idea of getting opportunity for market and investment is a good one for us. We believe that way we can drive the sector to the desired level. Of course, the shea sector is bedeviled with so many challenges. However, we believe by having this kind of opportunity, we should be able to come together so as to address those challenges. One of the key challenges has been that of market, especially an inclusive market. An inclusive market will be fair to everybody, the buyer and the seller. As such, if we are able to develop that, we will continue to develop the value and it continue to be moving in cycles. Now, in Nigeria today, we have a lot of women at the grassroots picking the nut, processing it. When you go there, you visit most of them, they have a lot of challenges. Access to finance is a problem, even though of recent there are a lot of windows of funding, especially with the banks and then some of the development financial institutions. But how do they access that funding? It's a challenge. But by coming together with this kind of forum, we should be able to create that avenue and then facilitate it such that they will get the value. But then, most importantly, our approach has to be a market-driven approach. Now, with the concept of the commodity exchange, which we have interacted with them, the commodity exchange is also an emerging economy in Nigeria. We have about 4 commodity exchange. If we are able to trade our commodity on the floor of the commodity exchange, it means we will get good market. And of course, the buyer, potential buyers who are concerned about quality will be able to they will have a guarantee of a source with traceability. And that way they will be comfortable doing their business. But then they should also be ready to pay for premium, because what we observe in this industry is that, yes, we talk of quality share, not quality share butter, but nobody is paying for premium. So it's something we hope we'll achieve. We are open to trading the commodities. We're open to trading the share butter. We're open for every actor to come in and partner with us. Of course, NASPAN as a body is a member of the Global Share Alliance. We work hand in hand and we continue to do so. And I want to use this opportunity to give that confidence, especially to our international buyers and what have you, that look, we are open. We are ready to trade our commodities and we will ensure that you get the right commodities. We will monitor virtually every transaction so that we give the comfort. I hope today before leaving this meeting, we should be able to reach certain agreement to come up with a way forward so that, as I said, my focus is to ensure that we have an inclusive market for Nigerian share, such that the buyer and the seller will be happy at the end of it. Thank you. I will stop here. We'll continue to talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Naspan, for that welcome address. May I ask, do we have the representative of UBA with us at this time? All right, we'll move on. If they come up, we'll allow them to give their own remarks. So last year we had the attendance of the First Lady of Niger State, Dr. Amina Abubakar Bello. She's the chairperson of Raise Foundation in Niger State. Her foundation is involved in grassroots empowerment of women. And she's been working very hard to enlighten, rural women about the importance of the value of the share industry regarding, collection of the parklands and all of that. So she was with us last year. Last year, you recall that we recognized 12 women for their contribution to the share industry, and we gave awards, and she was part of the awardees. And she gave very specific, suggestions and recommendations regarding moving forward. And I want to say that part of what we are doing today was as a result of some of the encouragement that we got from Her Excellency, the First Lady. Unfortunately, she's not able to be with us today because of prior other engagements, and actually the message got to her very late. But she has graciously asked the Director General of the Niger State Commodity and Export Promotion Agency to give her remarks. So I'm going to call on the Director General, Mrs. Fatima Wushishi, to give the remarks of the First Lady of Niger State. Fatima, you have the floor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Roland. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, all. My name is Fatima Wushishi. I'm the DG of the Niger State Commodity and Export Promotion Agency. Unfortunately, Her Excellency cannot be here today, so she has asked me to deliver her remarks. So on behalf of Her Excellency, the First Lady of Niger State, Dr. Amina Abubakar Bello, it's my pleasure to deliver this message today at this forum on finance and market access for Nigerian share products. She sends her good wishes and remarks and regards. She would like to recognize and appreciate the continued efforts of the Nigerian Agribusiness Register for promoting the growth of the share sector that is key to the economy of the state and especially women's economic empowerment. Last year at the inaugural event in which Her Excellency attended and in which 12 female entrepreneurs were awarded for their performance in the sector, Her Excellency tasked the Nigerian Agribusiness Register to take on some of the activities outlined in the Share Master Plan produced by the Raw Materials Research and Development Agency and NASPAN. She's heartened that the Nigerian Agribusiness Register has taken on one of the key activities in the master plan, with this forum's focus on finance and market access for kernels and crude shea butter and handcrafted butter from the women cooperatives. Her Excellency is passionate about women's and girls' rights and economic empowerment, as can be seen from her advocacy on the subjects via her NGO, the Raise Foundation.
The moment you log in, you are to talk now. The moment you log in, you are to talk. Please, thank you.
Presence at the recently locked in the most marginalized and rarely get
Okay, Fatima, we can't hear you now. It's like you're having network problems. Can you hear us? Okay, Fatima, can you hear us? Can you hear me? Okay, I think we're having problems with Fatima giving her speech. Okay, hold on, let me see.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Thank you, Roland. I'm not sure where you lost me, but
yeah, I think you were talking about the last year, actually, how the First Lady asked us to do some things. Yeah.
Okay. So as I was saying, last year at the inaugural event, in which Her Excellency attended, and in which 12 entrepreneurs were awarded for their performance in the sector, she had tasked the Nigerian Agribusiness Register to take on some of the activities outlined in the Shea Master Plan, produced by the Raw Materials Research and Development Agency and NASPAN. She's heartened that the Nigerian Agribusiness Register has taken on one of the key activities in the master plan, with this forum's focus on finance and market access for kernels and crude shea butter and handcrafted butter from the women cooperatives. Her Excellency is passionate about women's and girls' rights and economic empowerment, as can be seen from her advocacy on the subjects via her NGO, the Race Foundation, and her presence at the recently launched training program on UN Women Nigeria projects on women's economic empowerment through climate smart agriculture that is focused on women in the shea sector. Nigeria alone has over 50% of the global shea resource in West Africa, and Niger State has 36% of this resource. So as you can see, Nigeria is the home of shea and Niger is the very heart of shea. Even though women are crucial to the value chain, they are often the most marginalized and rarely get full value for their efforts. The shea industry in Niger State is underpinned by the multitude of women collectors living in the vicinity of the vast shea parklands. These rural women's activities are primarily limited to the lower end of the value chain, comprising of fruit collection, kernel processing, and raw butter processing with limited markets for their outputs. A key avenue for overcoming this challenge is the direct aggregation and trading in the raw kernels and crude and handcrafted butter produced in the state in a more structured and standardized and organized manner via a commodity exchange. Trading shea products on the exchange will create regular and consistent markets. It is hoped that this forum will herald a new dawn for the women in the shea sector and the state as a whole, and will put Niger State products, the kernels, the handcrafted butter, the crude shea butter, at the forefront of the global markets and drive the state's economic growth and also to boost women's economic empowerment. On behalf of Her Excellency, I want to use this opportunity to thank the stakeholders and the collaborators on this forum.
Hello?
I also wish to again commend the continued efforts of the Nigerian Agribusiness Register in promoting the growth of the shea sector. Finally, I wish to appreciate the multitude of women in the shea value chain for their sustained efforts and sacrifices that continually move the sector forward. Once again, I thank all the stakeholders and I wish us a successful session. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mrs. Fatima Wushishi, for that presentation on behalf of our First Lady, Dr. Amina Abubakar Bello. All right, so we're moving on the agenda. We have now the keynote address and the event opening by the representative of the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. Do we have the representative here now?
You are expected to talk now. Can you change them by the network?
Please, we want you to put yourself on mute. Please put yourself on mute so that we don't get distracted. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. can we have the representative of the Ministry of Industry and Investment? You just raise up your hands so that I can allow you to speak. Maybe we'll go ahead, and if they come up, we'll allow them to give their remarks. All right, I'm seeing somebody raising up his hand.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that the lady representing the Prime Minister of Investment is having an issue with her network.
Okay.
Before she will talk. So we can go to the next
okay, that's fine.
Session,
right.
So that, yeah,
okay,
she will come
okay, great.
Talk later. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that. All right, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. So we're moving into a panel session. This is one of the key highlights of today's event. So I'm sure that you all, the panelists, you have all been unmuted so that you can be able to make your presentations. All right, so this session is titled Trading Shea Nut and Shea Butter in Commodity Exchanges in Nigeria, How to Make It Happen. You all recall that the Securities and Exchange Commission, as part of the implementation of the 10-year Capital Market Master Plan, they instituted a technical committee on commodities trading and commodities trading ecosystem. And one of the recommendations of the committee was to identify commodities with good supply base in Nigeria for inclusion as a tradable commodities in the Nigerian commodity exchanges. So we think that shea could be or should be one of the commodities to be traded on the exchanges because of, obvious reasons. Nigeria is the largest producer of shea nut in West Africa, and there's no reason why shea should not be among the tradable commodities. So the objective of this session today is to see how we can identify what are the required steps, to put share on the commodity exchanges across the country. And to do justice to this topic, we have today with us the representative of the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange, Ms. Adiola Adeaze Adejumbe. She's a corporate strategist with the exchange. We have also Mr. Hemes Oka is from Afex Nigeria Limited. He is vice president for commercials at Afex. Prior to this role, he was an associate at Goldman Sachs, working on various teams across operations and investment management divisions. We're happy to have you today, Hemes. We have also Mr. Saleh Kwaru. He is the executive secretary of the Commodity Brokers Association of Nigeria, CBAN. He has an MBA and a master's in Islamic finance. He has 28 years working experience with the CBN as principal statistician. We have also. Please, can you put yourself on mute? Can you put yourself on mute? You are distracting us, please. Thank you.
You were saying something and then you stop. That means I have my that's more like no, that's it. I just wanted to ask. No, I don't know.
All right. We have also Alhaji Ahmed Kontongora, the president of NASPAN, as part of the panelists. So with that, I'm going to moderate the session. Please, if you are part of the panel and you don't have, you have not been unmuted, please let me know so that I can unmute you. Do we have the panelists? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Excellent, good. All right, so I think we're going to go ahead now. Let me just ask you a few questions. There are a few questions we're going to ask regarding this session right away. What are some of the benefits? What are some of the benefits to the different? So, what are some of the benefits for trading share in the commodity exchanges? I would like to have the Afex representative start with that question, please. Can you tell us what are some of the benefits of having share traded on the Nigerian commodity exchanges, please?
The reason why I asked, right, I have this bad experience of someone.
Hello, please. Can you mute yourself? Can you mute yourself, please?
Godwin.
Hey,
Mr. Godwin, please, can you mute yourself? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Nat. All right. So can we go ahead, Mr. Hermes Oka? Can you tell us what are the benefits of trading share nut on the commodity exchange?
Everything you discussed.
You can unmute yourself, please. Or somebody else can take that question. You can unmute yourself and take that question. Any of the panelists, please.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can go ahead. Adiola, you can go ahead. Is that Adiola?
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Yes, this is.
Okay,
this
please
is
go.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah. Good morning. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for the introduction. So, the question that you asked, what is the benefits of share butter being traded on a commodities exchange? The first thing we need to understand is what generally is the purpose of commodities exchanges. Now, as you are aware, as you stated it, commodities exchange, that field is more of a newly formed emerging field in Nigeria. Commodities have been traded in decades, as we have been trading the same with oil and gas across board. However, a lot of things have been done on an informal sector base. There hasn't been any sense of legislation or purpose being made in making sure that there is a structure placed for commodities to be traded in Nigeria and out of Nigeria. So the establishment of commodities exchanges is to form a transparent platform for commodities to now be traded. For example, at Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange, we trade on agricultural commodities, currency, solid minerals, and oil and gas. And the idea is that we want to enhance the Nigerian income revenue source and create transparency as well as price discovery when it comes to these commodities being traded. Now, as it was earlier stated, Nigeria has 50% of the highest global share of shea butter export, with Nigeria state holding 36% of such revenue. And it was also stated by the CEO of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council that shea butter alone is capable of fetching the country a foreign exchange earnings of over $10 billion annually. Now, when it comes to commodities being traded, a lot of stakeholders in the commodities ecosystem are working in silos. And it's a pleasure to say that the Securities and Exchange Commission has been able to see the essence and the necessities of creating legislations that will help govern commodities exchanges from showing up to a global standard spectrum. Because if we can look at other global commodities exchanges across the globe, from Chicago Mercantile Exchange to the London Stock Exchange to even Johannesburg Exchange, there has been a capacity building and a partnership with all stakeholders to show that there needs to be structure placed for the commodity to be protected and to be grown. In our country, we have vast major resources when it comes to commodity in Nigeria alone. Nigeria alone stands to hold about 75% of arable land in the country, which means that our natural resources are in depth and they're long-lasting. And we know that the current federal government is looking into diversifying our revenue income internationally, as well as trying to build a capacity across states. The essence of shea butter trading will not only, hello? Hello?
Please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, yes. The essence of shea butter being traded on a commodities exchange is very essential because with the access to a commodities exchange, there is not only legislation, but there's also accountability. A lot of commodities buyers, whether local or international, they struggle with getting consistency. They also struggle with getting quality of the assurance of the commodities that are being bought. Sometimes they can go directly to the farmer, and the farmer may not even know on his own capability how well adapted he needs to be equipped for global standard commodities to be able to be bought in a high quality value. So with commodities, especially with the regulation of SEC Nigeria, we are able to now initiate a seamless flow of transaction from the buyer to the seller. For commodities exchanges, we don't work with ourselves alone. We enable the market. To enable the market, we bridge in stakeholders in the capital market as well as in different areas, from insurance companies to certification agents, to credit bureaus, to warehouse managers, to collateral warehouse managers, to be more specific, to investment banks, to issuing houses, and to broker dealers as well. For example, on Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange, we establish our tradings with brokers. These brokers have already had Association of Securities Dealing Houses of Nigeria, who have had vast experience in the securities trading, especially on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And we're able to now bring them into a pivoting role to adapt into the commodities trading. Because we understand that to be able to trade a commodity, to be able to trade it well to the capacity of a global standard, we need to have specifications that need to be made that can be able to bring about the quality assurance that the global spectrum will need and will be able to trust. With that bridging of commodities exchanges, there is some sort of accountability, not only from a local point of view, but also from a national point of view, that international buyers can see credibility because there's always assurance. There is no lack of inconsistency when it comes to regulation with commodities exchanges because we are governed by legislation that is stated by national and government parastatals that can be able to protect not only the interests of the international buyers, but also the interests of the local producers. I know that earlier was mentioned that we have interesting partners and buyers in commodity in shea butter and shea nuts who are cosmetic producers, pharmaceutical companies, and chocolate manufacturers. I can tell you for a fact that personally, I have met with individuals who have had interest to want to trade. It may not even be aspect of shea butter, but let's just say maize, for example. And they've had some problems in trying to get the assurance quality that they need because either the producer may not know directly the necessary, should we say, protection requirements to manage, or where they store these commodities are not equipped enough, so they will have a wastage. But now with commodities exchanges, when international buyers come, they can see that there are quality checks that are being made to make sure that whatever is being produced on the ground, whatever is then being extracted, when it comes onto the exchange, it has gone through series of valuable and credible checks that they will be able to assure themselves that this is the quality and the quantity that they are getting at a consistent price and at a consistent margin. So for me, I believe that with commodities exchanges, there is a way that we can enhance the credibility of our shea nut and shea butter investments. And there's also a way that we can help showcase transparency and accountability in our Nigerian commodities ecosystem. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Adiola, for those response. Very appreciative. So we hear you very clearly. You're saying that putting share on the commodity exchanges will bring about transparency. It will increase.
Yes.
It will enhance the quality of the product because several parties will be involved.
Yes.
It will also give confidence to the buyers because they know that a series of process has been put in place to ensure that before the product gets to the exchange, the quality, has been, ensured. So, which I think is very important right now. Thank you so much for those comments. So we'll move on now to the next question, and I would like to ask our colleague from AFEX if he can come on board on this one. So the question is, what needs to be put in place to enhance readiness and viability of trading share? What are the things, just be very specific and just keep to maybe like a minute or less than a minute. What are the things that we need to put in place to enhance the readiness and the viability of trading share on the commodity exchanges?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Appreciate the time on the platform. So I think the last panelist really did a great job of explaining all that's needed. But if I could just delve in a bit more specific of all the things she mentioned, was excellent: structure, quality, efficiency in the markets, value. I'd hone in on quality, right? So the way that we prepare commodities in this country is very inefficient and unfortunately can lead to below standard product at the end. So specifically in shea butter, the traditional methods that they use, whether it's from boiling, parboiling to remove the skins, or actual like washing by hand and kneading the paste into the butter, all that opens and happens in an uncontrolled environment, which could lead to impurities coming in. And so no matter how well and how kind of careful you are, at the end of the day, once that ship leaves the shore and gets to the other side and they do a test and they find some kind of residue of some uncontrolled substance, then we're back at square one and we're in trouble and we're looking at high liability and high loss. So if I were to focus on any of the items, it would definitely be on quality control. And to solve that, a solution would be mechanization, right? So if we have a factory setup, a controlled environment, and the beautiful thing about this is that you can do it, or you need to do it at the local level, right there amongst the women cooperatives that are producing this. I think that's going to be foundational to providing an exchange.
Okay, great. All right, great. Yeah, that's very apt. Thank you so much for that. So can we have the registrar of CBAN give us his comment on the question of readiness of share trading on the exchanges?
Thank you very much, Mr. Roland. It's interesting having the opportunity to join this session today. First of all, I need to start by appreciating AgNet Agribusiness and the collaboration they are having with NASFAN for bringing this platform for us to come and share our own views on what it takes to take the shea butter into the exchange. Adiola has said it all. Trading the shea butter on the exchange is an opportunity to open the market for the shea butter across the globe. Of course, what is very much important for us, again, like Okra has said, is all to concentrate on giving out the best quality and the best standards that will meet the international market. The international market is indeed very, very great. The shea butter has an international status, and it has been projected that the global demand is as close to $30 billion before the end of the year. And that is to tell you how far it has gone and what is required of the product to meet up to the international standards. Again, we can also see the product has been very, very rich in terms of vitamins. It contains vitamin A, E, and F. which really the world today requires to build up the strength of our kids and even the aged people. Again, the product is something that can be seen to be used in all facets of life. And shea butter is used for cooking oil, it's used in the cosmetics industry. It's also being used in the pharmaceutical. Again, it's also stand as a substitute for margarine, cocoa, and butter and what have you. It's also being used for cake making, for livestock feed, for manure and fertilizers, and all that can go into the agri value chain. Having said all this, one can see that for it to get the international recognition, for it to be seen and then be accepted as an international product, certainly it needs to get a way to be traded on the floor of the exchanges. Yes, true, we have 4 exchanges in Nigeria today, partially by name, but of course, all things are being done to ensure that trading and continuous trading in these exchanges commence as soon as possible. Again, it is only when this trading are done that Nigeria will continue to lead the world by saying that we produce over 60% of the world share. If we produce 60% of the world share and not much is coming into our nation, then certainly we are not really diversifying and getting revenue to drive that sector and the product itself. So trading in the exchange is like a gateway to really making us to be the world producer, world #1 producer, and at the same time creating wealth and just opportunity for our own country. Again, we also need to see that other inputs. Hello, hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
and
go on.
Yeah, and then one of the critical an opportunity for the country to diversify its revenue base. Today, we have seen how oil has taken the nation and even the world where it's approaching. And the next world and the next target of revenue drive globally is in agriculture. And since this is perhaps one of the only agricultural products which Nigeria perhaps today control the whole world and it's in economic terms, I think we need to do as much as we can to get to the exchange. For us, our community brokers, Adiola has said it, we are very much willing and fully certified to move into the exchange to trade this commodity. What is very much liking and perhaps being on the pipeline is for the exchanges themselves to get in and accommodate us. We need them to have a robust technology, IT-driven platform where the whole world can see what we have, and then we can seamlessly trade this commodity across the globe. For us as brokers, we are very much set, and we really want to benefit from the gain that will come from this big initiative. I thank the organizers, NASPAN and Agribusiness, for giving us this opportunity to share our own thoughts, and we look forward to future collaboration with you all. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Siban, for that intervention. The next question I'm going to trade open to all of you. Anybody can respond to it. And the question is, what level of sensitization is needed to make this happen, to put Shea nut in the commodity exchange? What level of sensitization, and then who should do it? How should this be done? You know, looking at what practical steps can be taken right now, because time is not really on our side. Some of these discussions should have been had like maybe 5, even 10 years ago, you know, so I think we're a bit in a hurry to move very fast, you know. So I really like to hear from you guys, what are the practical steps that needs to be taken, and then what kind of sensitization? We've talked about quality, mechanization is important, but we know that a lot of the production still comes from, the rural areas. So what level of sensitization is required, and who should take the lead in some of these things? The floor is open.
Okay, Roland.
Hey,
yes,
okay.
yes, somehow we can be seen to start that list. But of course, it's better to be late than never. This initiative that we have just brought, I think, really is the key point. And then we have started at this level. For all of us as players, the exchanges, the brokers, and what have you, we all hold it a responsibility to ensure that we take this sensitization to the key stakeholders. Presently, I reside in Kano, and Kano really has one of the biggest markets you can think of in West Africa. And from our own end and all other key stakeholders, we need to see how we can even reach out even to those informal markets, those people that are growing the commodities and those that are even trading in an informal way, to sensitize them so that they can add value and then enrich themselves when the opportunity is on the ground. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Diola, you wanted to say something?
Yes, thank you, sir. What I wanted to talk about, you mentioned two things, the practical steps and advocacy. I would like to start first with the practical steps. Now, we all know that we've heard our stakeholders, we've heard our colleagues speak in regards to the quality, the quantity. We've also heard from legislators as to what needs to be done. From an exchange point of view, we know that there is no way that we can work without any adaptation or innovation into the market. One of them being investment opportunities in the ecosystem of shea butter producing and exporting. And for me, I will link out 5 shea nut and shea butter investment opportunities. That is the production, the processing, the exporting, the storage, and the marketing. The production meaning the United States representative mentioned how we need to enable the women who are there being the main producers of the shea butter and shea nuts. We need to be able to build capacity with the laborers at the farm gate, who are the ones who are extracting this, whether it is enhancing in regards to manufacturing essentials or activities that can be done to hasten up the production process. Then we also need to look into the investments of the processing plants, how we can enhance the infrastructure to be able to see how we can get real-time and consistent processing of these shea nuts and shea butters to be delivered to their new homes, rather should I say. Then we also have the exporting side of it. We need to see if there can be able to be some sort of protection laws, whether it be reduction of taxes at the ports or find a way to even create some sort of synergy to liaise the transaction and as well as the transfer from the buyer to the seller in and out of Nigeria. Then we're also looking at storaging. We, as an exchange, know that a lot of the commodities, especially if you want to go into derivatives point of view, because shea butter can also be a derivative commodity. So we are looking at making sure that we can equip the storage units, aka the warehousings, to see how we can be able to get computerized as well as electronic warehouse receipts that can be able to hold the quality assurances of these commodities. And then we also have marketing. Now, marketing, I want to tie it into advocacy because the marketing has to be with promoting the fact that there's a robust amount of shea nut and shea butter in Nigeria. Just like how this summit now is promoting the advocacy on it, we need more support from other government parastatals as well as other private investors. We need more summits, more, should we say, outreach programs. And we also need to get Nigeria shea butter market into the minds and eyes of the international markets. Associate ourselves with other investment as well as outreach programs, road shows that other countries who are invested heavily in shea butter have. For example, I know that the highest exporting areas of shea butter have to do with Europe, USA, and we need to see how we can showcase ourselves there to present ourselves that we have the quality, we have the quantity, with the help of the exchanges, always delivering the consistent amount that is needed for global players to be able to buy from us. If we have that reassurance and the support as exchanges, we can always have that assurance towards our buyers that, yes, we have this in place, we have this in our country, and we are able to deliver at a consistent time with the sorry, and with the competitive pricing that the global markets are playing into. So for me, that's where I feel that we can definitely, work on making sure that commodities are being brought out and is advocacy. So those two, the practical steps and the advocacy, my side.
Okay, well said. Thank you so much, Adiola. Okay, can I ask the NASPON president as we begin to round up this session to tell us, what kind of actions will be required on the side of NASPAN to engage with other stakeholders to make this a reality as soon as possible?
Thank you very much, Mr. Roland, and my colleagues on the panel. One thing I want us to understand that we have to work as a team. We have to collaborate. We have to, first of all, look at the critical issues. The critical issues that at the grassroots, we have challenge, especially with our women. Most of them are into this road for long, and they have traditional way of doing things, which may not be actually be the right thing or the best way to get the right quality. But by the time we're able to engage them, one of the biggest challenges is that of infrastructure. You find that the woman trek long distance to the bush, pick the nut, transport it on their head to their hamlet, parboil it, sun-dry it, and the husk. Now, in an environment whereby the women have not even clean water to drink, you are asking them to parboil nut with clean water. That's a problem. Of course, that also leads to bad quality. By the time they want to sun-dry, you find that activity of Shea not concerned with the farming activities in rainy season. They don't even have a place to sun-drying slabs, so they sun-dry it by the roadside. All I'm trying to say is that these are critical issues, critical challenges that we have to face. And if we're able to provide a basic infrastructure, which is a sort of can also turn to be an aggregation center, because I believe every commodity exchange cannot operate without warehouses, and those warehouses can be aggregation centers. So we can come together, look at the critical issues and see how we can address it. Of course, we've been talking to our women group. I can say, like in Niger State, we are able to do a lot. I remember with the support of GIZ, we are able to develop a uniform method of processing not to kernel and also to butter. This has greatly improved on quality. However, we need to cascade it. We need to take it to various states and then see that we can. We should be able to have a uniform method for us to be able to achieve that issue of quality. One thing I'm happy about the commodity exchange is that yes, the registrar had made some explanation, and also the Diola mentioned about the market. Nigeria, we are missing a lot because the agricultural sector generally is just left in the open. You know, in the past, we used to have what you call a marketing board. In those days, there was no, there wasn't, the marketing board was an organized system. There was a local buying agent. A farmer knows his market even before he harvests. So it is well structured. But after the regulation of the agricultural sector completely, all those structures were removed. And it was left in the follow. That was the bane of agriculture generally in Nigeria, especially the commodity aspect. So with the advent of the commodity exchange, I see a situation whereby that platform will be restored. We will have an organized system such that even the government will get revenue, the farmer or rather the processors will have value for their labor, and indeed the buyer will have also be sure of getting good quality note. So this platform, yes, we can make it. I believe if we come together, we'll agree on something, and then we'll also work with the financial institution. Last week I talked about so many opportunities. There are investments, so many investment opportunities across the Shea value chain. One was to begin with the aggregation center, or rather the processing center at the grassroots, because I will emphasize one point. For us to get quality nut and butter, we must address the challenge at the grassroots. And that is to say, we must ensure that those women at the grassroots are given the basic infrastructure. We can structure a long-term loan with a single digit, provide the basic infrastructure in all locations. And there are some communities that only process shea not to share almond. There are communities that will go ahead to process to share butter. There are communities that will go and buy the nut or the shea kernel and process it into butter. But most importantly, the handcrafted shea butter we are producing here in Nigeria is of a small quantity, which means the larger processors, the mechanical processors, the chemical processors who have larger industry will have to mop that nut. And I tell you today, if you go to various most of our community, you have a lot of nut wasting. So that is why I believe we are working with the commodity exchange to solve that problem. The buyers, most of our big time buyers now, you sometimes find them in the villages, or they have agent, they give you LPO, they go around. But if you are to buy at the floor of the commodity exchange, you are guaranteed of quality nut. And I can assure we at NASFAN, we will ensure that yes, quality share nut, quality butter get to the warehouse of the exchange. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed Kotangura, for that intervention. So I just have a last question before we round up this session. The question goes to the commodity exchange representatives. I know that the technical committee that was set up by the SEC to identify tradable commodities. Now, my question is there any provision for engaging with the commodity associations or with the industries on how to get these commodities in the commodity exchanges? Are there specific provisions? Are there maybe a budgetary provision or something, some kind of technical assistance so that after this discussion, we should be able to hinge it on whatever provisions that are available to begin to take the actionable steps that are required to make this a reality as soon as possible. So that's why I'm asking this question. So some of you are members of that technical committee, AFEX, I think the Lagos Commodity Exchange as well. So are there specific provisions to get specific products into the commodity exchanges? Are there provisions? Are there support measures? Just a very sharp answer we need.
So just to add quickly, yeah, from the AFEX perspective, the key for us is to focus on certain crops and expand our impact within those value chains. We are open to growing, but it has to be a market-led decision and not one of any sentiment at all. So we'll then look at the impact that we can have in the value chain. We can look at standardization, we can look at volume to determine if this is an opportunity that we want to take advantage of. And if all those come in the green light, then we can follow through and place it on the exchange.
Excellent. So just a quick one before you go. So in the case of Shea now, are you willing to work with NASPAN and other parties to get all the information you need to make that decision? Is this, or have you made that decision? Just, yes. Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot, but
so we're very open.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah. So like if you look at other commodity and other value chains that we deal with, we also engage other associations and bodies as well. Okay. So we're very open to it and glad to start having the discussion.
Okay, great. Excellent. What about Lagos Commodity Exchange? Have you made a decision on Shea, or do you need information to make that decision? What do you need?
Okay, so in regards to our parts, before any commodities will be approved onto our exchange, we need to get approval from our regulator, SEC. So any commodity, any interested aggregator that wants to come aboard the exchange, so let's say the Shea Butter Association would like to come aboard the exchange, we'll then give them the application process to be guided to SEC. Once SEC approves, they will require specifications from a reputable certification agent to show the specific entities that are embodying that such commodity. Now, we, from our own understanding, know that SEC don't mind with the standard organizations of Nigeria to govern those specification rights. So from us, the process is very seamless. Once you come on board, you have an interest, we will introduce your commodity to be approved by SEC through those specifications by SON that we provided. Then we now go through the onboarding, and that goes with our own internal processes from the listing requirements to then the warehouse approval and application process. And then it goes on from there before they can now be traded onto our exchange. But it's a seamless conversation because we all know that as long as the volume is there, and as long as the specifications are there and they are not harmful to the consumption of the commodity, it would be a very seamless transaction. So from us, that's the basic application flow process for any onboarding of our commodities onto our exchange.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for that contribution. So thank you so much. Thank you so much all for your contribution. I know we have someone from Gezawa Commodity Exchange, Kanu. I don't know, you want to make a remark before we go? Is there a representative from Gezawa Commodity Exchange? Okay, we'll move forward. All right, before the next presentation, I'm going to ask the representative from the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Mrs. Alabede, to give her remark on behalf of the PAMSEC. Mrs. Yemi Alabede, can you hear me? So we need to have our government agencies and the ministries on board in all these discussions because we need the cooperation of the government and the private sector to work together to address the issues of market access and marketing of our products. So we're happy to have the representative of the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment with us, Mrs. Alabede. Could you please unmute yourself and go on and give your remarks of the permanent secretary? Okay, while she's okay, I think we're having some issues here with her, so we'll go ahead and maybe later she can come up.
Hello, yes, so sorry, there was a bit of a network failure.
Okay, great, okay. Go ahead.
Could you please repeat the question? I didn't really hear properly.
Okay, no, so this is, the panel session has ended. We're now, I wanted to invite the representative of the Ministry of Trade and Investment, Mrs. Yemi Alabede. So is that Diola?
Yes, this is
okay.
She.
Okay, no, so Diola, sorry, thank you so much. I think we've come to the end of the panel session.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, we'll come to the end of the panel session. We're moving on now to the next session, but we wanted to have the representative of the Ministry of Trade and Investment to give her remarks, but I think we've lost her again. She was on, with us, but I think I can't find her anymore in this session. So I think I will move on to the next presentation, which is my own presentation. So I would put up my screen, just a minute. Let me put up my screen and then I'll take that presentation. Just a minute. All right. Yeah, so this is the concept that we're working with with NASPAN as one of the measures to address the access to market. So the concept is called the Nigeria Shea Butter Access to Market Program. This is put together by Commodities Development Initiative and NASPAN as a response to the question of access to market. If you go around the share industry today, one of the primary concerns of most investors is access to market. So we thought that it's important to have a response to this problem by putting up a program that can address this issue. All right, so the essence of this presentation is really to get your inputs because the program is not launched yet. It's still at the formulation stage. So we're hoping that with this forum, we can elicit people's comments, your views. Many of you have experience in these areas. So we're hoping to elicit that. So I'll just quickly go straight to the presentation. Let me just introduce myself a little bit. So my name is Roland Oro. I'm a business development practitioner. Also the like I said earlier on, founder of the Nigeria Agribusiness Register. I have 25 years of experience in business development. I worked with the USAID for 8 years. So I've been around a little bit, trying to support commodities development and things like that. All right. So this presentation, this is the outline. We'll look at briefly at the share industry and the rationale for this program, and then talk about the program and then the focus of the program and how to measure performance, and then we'll take your inputs, and then we'll look at the next steps. All right. So this is just a brief overview of the share industry. These are some of the facts we all know about it, but just to refresh our minds, for those of us who are new, to get some of the information. So about 600 metric tons of shea nuts are available for collection. We have about 400,000 to 425,000 nuts collected annually, according to the FAO. The gross value out of this is about 150 billion, according to NASA in 2018. Crude shea butter output is about 50 to 70,000 metric tons per annum. Looking at some of the new mechanical plants that have come up in the last few years, and several plants are going to be coming up very soon. There are several plants in the pipeline. Nigeria exports to majorly, to Ghana, EU. This is for shea nuts now. Even though we're the largest producer, we're not doing so well in terms of export of nuts. We're number 4 among African countries. The value of shea nuts export as at 2015 is about 9.5 billion. In 2016, it's 8.5 billion. This information from the National Bureau of Statistics. Shea nut cake meal export in 2016 was 173 million naira, according to MBS. Of course, there are industrial uses, cosmetics industry, pharmaceutical industry, and the food and confectionery industry uses shea. And these are some of the opportunities that we're looking at. And of course, the impact is there. And NASPAN, like we've said earlier, that has been said earlier on, NASPAN coordinates the industry. So the rationale really for this program is looking at the level of interest from the private sector. A lot of people are investing in shea processing plants, mechanization plants, and there are also efforts by some state governments to strengthen the rural, the rural community, rural women community in, bringing them together into cooperatives, to produce, handcrafted shea butter. So there's a lot of activity going on in the last few years, and we see a lot of things coming up, a lot of pipeline projects, a lot of investment interest. Now, without sufficient offtake of products, these initiatives may not, achieve the intended objectives. So it's important that, we look at the issue of, access to market in a very holistic way, in a very organized way. And that is the rationale behind this initiative. And like I said earlier on, it's a partnership. It's going to be a public-private partnership. initiative to look at market development, local market and foreign market for 3 types of product: handcrafted, crude, and then refined products. So what is the focus? The focus of the program really will be along these 4 lines. Of course, we're still open to suggestions from stakeholders. The market readiness for producers, that will be the first aspect of the program. Market readiness in terms of looking at all the, the production process, the sustainability, the traceability, getting all the right certifications and all of that, so getting producers ready to engage with the market. So that's very important. And then the second aspect would be the buyer engagement, in terms of, engaging with buyers, both at the local and then at the foreign market level. And then traceability and CSRO is key because, as we know, this is a key aspect of international marketing. International buyers, they want to be sure that the product is traceable, the source is defined, and CSRO is in place. And then of course the living environment, it's put in place. So this initiative will complement existing initiatives of the Global Shea Alliance, federal and state governments. So we're hoping that you will have synergies with other existing programs, and then this one will be will be able to, offer value, to stakeholders. So how are we going to measure performance? So the number of participating entities will be one way to measure performance of this program. The value and volume of sales recorded by producers and buyers, whether quarterly or annually, would be a measure of performance. And then of course, the number of jobs created both at the rural and the urban areas will be a good measure of performance of this program. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, so this is a quick overview of this program, the Nigerian Shea Butter Access to Market program that we'll be contemplating on. At this time, we would like to I would like to call on Mr. Ahmed Kotongora of NASPAN to sort of, shed some light. There've been some engagements with the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria in terms of looking at the domestic market, looking at the cosmetic industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and the food and beverage industry, to see what their needs are and how we can, how NASPAN and industry can respond to the needs of the local industry. By taking very deliberate and targeted steps, to increase the domestic utilization of shea butter in the country. So that's a whole huge opportunity that, that's available. And NASPAN has started the communication with the MAN president and the MAN secretariat. And I think a meeting has been scheduled for next month to look at, the nuances and the different angles and how we can start up engaging with the local industries. There are about up to 50 industries or 50 companies that use shea butter as ingredients in cosmetics and pharmaceuticals. And it's important that we engage with these people to see how they can incrementally begin to use more shea butter in their production so that we can domestically utilize what we produce. We've also reached out to the Global Shea Alliance as part of consultations for this program to see what areas how they can come in to help in terms of facilitating the engagement with international buyers. And that discussion is still ongoing. We're hoping that in the next few weeks, we'll be able to have concrete, discussions with the buyers to get their input regarding quality specifications and other areas where we can establish relationships in terms of offtake. So yeah, so with that, I think I'm going to pause and then ask Kotongora to come in a little bit, and then thereafter I would like to throw it open to the floor. Perhaps people have comments. Let me also say that this is going to be a partnership with the government agencies of NAP, of course, NAPC and the Ministry of Trade and Investment and some of the state governments. But at this time, we're just still consulting to see how we can get enough inputs from the industry as we move on. So, Mr. Kotangura, you want to come in briefly to just put some highlight about your engagement with the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roland. Actually, we had a robust discussion with MAN because we're looking at the possibility of creating or rather developing the share market within Nigeria and outside. So our discussion was really, it went well, and we are scheduled to meet first week of next month. The whole idea is to see that the cosmetic industry, the confectionery and the pharmaceutical source shea butter from Nigeria rather than other ingredient they are using. For example, there is something we call tallow, which they are using for soap making, and we believe shea butter is the best for soap making in terms of nutritional values and what have you. More so, you can easily source it here in Nigeria. But the biggest challenge they have is part of our discussion is how they will get quantity at quality. So the issue is how can we work? We as a team we are going to work with them to see that we make sure that our producers, our processors produce quality, not unquality butter. Equally, we are in touch with Nigeria Export Promotion Council. They have they're creating assets for market for us for the international buyers. We have gone far with them. So in essence, what we are saying is that I'm trying to share that yes, our focus is market-driven approach. We know the market is there. We know the market is out there. All we need to do is how to engage the buyers and then how to also work with our team, our members to ensure that we have the right quantity. The issue is that we have to get quantity at quality. Thank you. That's just brief. And as time goes, we'll get more and more because as of today, a lot of companies, there are those that contacted us, indicated interest, and then they explain what their challenges, and we hope we'll go through it. And I believe also in Global Share Alliance will be there for us, and they will give us all the necessary support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kotangura. So I would like to throw it open to the floor. I'm sure there are people who would like to make some comments or make inputs to this concept. Please, can you just indicate so that we can give you the floor to make a few comments? Do we have anyone who wants to make a comment on this concept? You can unmute yourself and speak. Do we have anyone, please? Okay, yeah, all right. So it's assumed that we all understand this concept. We're hoping that we can get maybe donor support or some kind of support, technical support or grant support, to set up a program that over time, maybe a more like a 3-year program to have a baseline of where we are now, and then in every year we can measure the progress, and then we can have some feedback, and we can measure, take some actions, and then see how the actions are progressing. Just like a typical project. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll look out for donors who will be interested to support this. Because it will definitely create a lot of social impact. All right. So, but if maybe after this session you want to share your thoughts or comments with us, please feel free to reach NASPAN or reach me with your thoughts, your comments, or ideas how we can refine it and make it more practicable, more doable, more result-oriented. Please. All right. So we'll move on to the next item. I would like to call on the representative of Global Share Alliance, Ms. Wumi Osholake, to give her presentation on this occasion. So Wumi, you have the floor. You can unmute yourself. I'm going to bring up your presentation right away.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I hope everybody can hear me. Good morning from Accra. My name is Wumi Ashalake, and I'm the Deputy Managing Director of the Global Shea Alliance. So for this, to start with, I would like to say a big thank you to the leading partners on this, the leading partners that put this event together, AgNet and NASPAN, as well as the supporting partners for convening the stakeholders around this very important topic on how we move forward the Nigerian shea sector. I think it's a topic that very much aligns with the time, considering the fact that we're seeing shea explode on the international market in terms of its growth. We're seeing a lot of movement in that regards. And ideally, I've heard a lot of people refer to Nigeria as the #1 producing country for shea, which is rightfully so. However, you don't often see this role translate in its export activities. And I think that having a conversation around that and how we jointly as a team begin to address some of the constraints is quite important. So really thank you for putting together this platform. The GSA is always a ready and friendly partner to support the growth of the association and of the Nigerian sector at large. For the sake of those who don't know what the GSA is, the second slide gives you a bit of a context. We are a member association of about 560 members from 35 countries. The alliance was established back in 2011 and brings together different actors across the value chain. So from upstream to downstream of the value chain, women collectors, women processors, cooperatives, brands and retailers, suppliers of oils and fats, as well as producer national associations such as NASPAN, and affiliates as well, affiliates that offer support service to the value chain. We focus on 3 main objectives, which is highlighted in the slide following. Our objectives are to promote the global utilization of shea, to disseminate quality standards and best practices. We've talked a lot about quality this morning. I've heard the Exchange Commission representatives speak about quality. We've heard Mohammed Katangara of NASPAN speak about the importance of supporting the grassroots, which is very, very much valid. And that's one of the things that the GSA also supports. And the third part of our activity is really sustainability. How do we ensure the sustainable development of the industry, looking into 40, 50 years down the line? How do we ensure that the sector continues to grow and expand for the benefit of all? So that's pretty much the 3 key strategic focus of the Alliance. Just to better conceptualize how we work, the next slide gives you an overview of what I call the GSA program model. It is a model definitely based on stakeholder engagement, gives voice back to the different stakeholder groups in the value chain. So it's a platform where everybody gets to engage, talk about the different challenges as it relates to the strategic focus. We then develop guidelines and best practices and then disseminate those guidelines and best practices once it's adopted by the Alliance. And then we ensure that there's alignment through engagement with producer national associations, alignment with government, with donor organizations and so forth. And then we go into the implementation model, which is where we develop projects, which is where we we develop projects that are being implemented on the ground. So you would have GSA-led projects, GSA-supported projects, as well as member-led projects. And we demonstrate results. At the end of the day, we always want our activities to speak to results. Either improved markets, either increased trade, either empowerment of women collectors, or repopulation of Shea parklands, but there must be a result that could be articulated at the end of the whatever initiative that we're working on. So that's just to give you a sense of how the Global Shea Alliance works. When I was invited to speak at this event, or when the GSA was invited to speak at this event, the question that I raised, or what I wanted to know is what is the disconnect between the growth that the industry is experiencing and the role that Nigeria is playing? And I thought, to start off, it might be important for us to show where the growth lies and what that potential is, so that the Nigerian stakeholders can have a better grasp of what's going on internationally. And I try to do that in the next slide, which really focuses on the growing potential of Shea. And what you see here, I have these two graphs here to kind of give you a sense of what has happened over time. I'm sure a lot of people have the background information as to what had initially leapfrogged the growth in Shea, which was the EU regulation back in the 2000s that allowed the use of Shea as a cocoa butter equivalent. And since then, we've seen a lot of changes in policy that has continued to provide an opportunity for Shea, specifically in the food sector. And in the same sense, we've actually faced quite a lot of challenges as well, with some other countries opening up their doors for Shea. So we've been having discussions around trade barriers in the US that have really limited the use of Shea, particularly in their food sector. However, we're beginning to see some new opportunities. Recently, we had in the US a change in status for Shea, where the US Food and Drug Administration now would allow the use of Shea in food, but particularly the use of, say, Shea olein or Shea butter in product categories such like margarine, salad dressings, other products that Shea wasn't being used in before. So, and we see that as a great opportunity for Shea. We're seeing changes in the policies in India as well, although it's still with its own challenges of allowing Shea, but India has equally opened up its market to allow CBEs. And that's something that we're also working on. So you see a lot of policy changes internationally that's actually contributing to the use of Shea. In addition to that, you're seeing new markets. You're seeing new market based on functionality of Shea, with a lot of research and development going into Shea. You're able to use the different Shea derivatives in different formulations that had not been the case in the past. We see a continuous rise in the number of patents being registered for Shea products in Europe. And most importantly, we're seeing an explosion in the plant-based diet. There's a very strong movement as people continue to have this discussions around sustainability and climate change, and really moving to supplementary diets or alternate diets that puts less constraints on the environment. So we're seeing a shift towards plant-based diet that's exploding, and Shea is featuring relatively in this space. I like to give this example of a show that I went to in Europe where they had featured a new type of burger, and it was a plant-based burger that was just predominantly made out of Shea and coconut oil, and it really tasted like a burger. So that was very intriguing and interesting to see what opportunities are rising. The other side that's contributed to this is the consumer perception of Shea as well. We're in a time where there's a lot of complaints about deforestation, and that is driving that move away from palm and palm reliance, and it's giving opportunities to shea. So a lot of consumers are starting to favor products that they consider natural, products that they consider sustainable, products that they consider renewable. And shea kind of checks all the boxes when you see that. The other part of shea that's not very well promoted, it's that it's a healthy fat compared to other oil options or alternatives on the shelf. Shea is actually very healthy. It has more, it has less of a palmatic fraction, which is one of the things that gives you kind of like the heart attacks and stuff like that. But it features in that relatively healthy space. And it's really changing its identity as an ingredient. So not just the CBE or CBI, it's becoming just a renewable standalone ingredient and having its own identity. So that's really what we're seeing on the international market, like this complete change. And that's one of the things that GSA, the Global Shea Alliance, is about. It's really opening up new markets for shea, either through new functionality, either through geographical location, either through policy, or even promotion activities. So that's something that's quite encouraging. And looking at how shea has grown, we often talk about a growth of about 600% in the last 20 years. But when you look at statistics, you realize that 100% almost of that growth was actually in the last 5 years. And something that just recently happened is the fact that shea hit a new record number this year. And that's what I try to highlight in the slide following. So you see the next slide gives you kind of where shea is now. So for the first time in the history of shea, we actually broke into the 500 metric tons export figure this year. So the trading season between August 2019 and July 2020, you see such historical and impressive performance of shea, with a lot of that export being led by Ghana as well as Burkina. But with the shea as a commodity actually hit the 500 metric ton point. And that for us is really a testament to what the industry is about and the potential of the industry. We're estimating that the industry has another 50% potentially in expansion capabilities over the next 5 years, meaning that over the next 5 years, we could still see another increase of about 50% in the sector. And it's also interesting because a lot of the residues of shea, or what you would call the byproducts, are also finding new markets. So you've seen shea being used, as rightfully pointed out before, in pharmaceuticals as a biofuel, as organic fertilizers, as animal feed. So you're also outside of the typical food and cosmetic industries, you see other use of shea. The next slide pretty much just shows where the exports going, and it's still mainly the EU, the European Union, or the 28 European Union countries is still leading the way in terms of kernels as well as butter. But, and you could see Malaysia as well as India being part of those drivers of export, or the key export destinations. We're seeing also increase in local capacity. A lot of value addition is now being done in the West Africa region. So you're seeing a lot of processing plants coming up, a lot of fractionation plants, fractionation capacity being installed on the continent itself, and those are really encouraging for the industry. To move quickly and round up the session, I wanted to speak about how do we sustain growth, and this is a lot of more of the feedback to the Nigerian sector is the fact that how do we showcase the sector as a key international player? And I think the first thing and I echo the sentiment of Mr. Ahmed Kotangara, is to improve collection activities at the farm level. There's a need to invest in the capacity of women collectors, to give them access to storage facilities, to give them access to pre-financing, and most importantly, market information. And that way we'll be able to maximize their operations, we'll be able to improve their productivity, and then generate profit over time. It's also important that we increase the quality of shea export. This has been an area that has put the Nigerian sector in a bit of a disadvantage relative to the other other shea producing countries. And as such, there's a need to re-emphasize post-harvest processing. How do we introduce semi-mechanization of production? I'd heard someone say that the processing shea is tedious, and it's not as glamorous as a lot of people think it is. There's a lot of time and energy that goes into it from the grassroots, and it's important that we begin to look at ways to mechanize the process for them. Also building the capacity of SMEs. They're very important to the expansion of developing countries, their GDP. So ensuring that the SMEs have a competitive advantage is also critical. But most importantly, and this is where, when I talk about new markets, to explore new markets for shea, not just outside, not just in Europe or in the US or in Asia, but on the continent itself. How do you begin to commercialize and market shea-based food on products? You see a lot of different oils on the shelves of different supermarkets. The question becomes, can shea oil be featured on those shelves as a cooking oil as well? And then you ask the question about the cosmetic sector. When you go to the US, you see a lot of promotion of shea as a cosmetic ingredient. It's natural, it's a moisturizer, it's this and that, but you don't often see the same here on the continent. So how do we begin to drive value and, interestingly, capitalize on the population strength that Africa has? Africa in itself is a market and can do business by itself. So how do we begin to capitalize on things like that, and capitalize on new policies like the Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement that's coming up? And last but not the least is continue to manage the resource at the farm level by investing or building the knowledge of our partners on good agricultural practices, preserving shade trees, as well as driving the value, the economic value of those trees down to the people that manage the resource, so down to the farmers and the communities where shea grows. And last but not the least, I thought it would be important to show how the Global Shea Alliance partners. Like I said, we're a member-based alliance, and for our membership, we do offer various support. A key part of it is supply chain support. How do we help you achieve more efficiency and traceability in your supply chain? How do we improve your procurement knowledge? How do we support you with product formulation and functionality? In addition to that, we support marketing efforts. We create linkages at the alliance level with the different stakeholders. The GSA is that platform where all the different groups can actually engage. So a lot of technical assistance, one-on-one engagement with the members. And last but not the least, support the efforts of our members as it relates to sustainability. We have a variety of grant opportunities, match grant opportunities that our members can access to better support their upstream activities. So I do encourage you, should you have any questions to how you could engage the GSA, please kindly reach out. I did forget to put my contact. I'm just realizing that in here, but I'll be sure to drop it into the chat box. But once again, I would like to say a very big thank you to AgNet and NASPAN for giving us the opportunity. We're always delighted to partner with you in developing the Nigerian shea sector. So thank you so very much for having me.
Okay, thank you so much, Wumi, for that presentation. I'm sure that a lot of us have questions. So I'm going to throw the floor open to the participants to ask questions to GSA. Somebody raised up her hand. You want to go ahead and ask your question, please? You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Roland, and the team at AgNet. My name is Aderemi Akpatira. I am the National Coordinator for and Head of Secretariat for NASPAN, and I just have some bit of question. I would have loved to ask this to the people at the Commodities Exchange, but nevertheless, I'll just go ahead. Now, it's great to have the Commodities Exchange taking on Shea, but would it take care of the over 20 levels of processes for export of the Shea? Probably thinking about compressing, because it's part of what had made the smuggling of Shea and its products out through all sorts of places, and has also been discouraging, especially for most of our members who have been doing their exports before now. Also, of course, I expect that this will facilitate some cost reduction and then ease of doing business. So I'm just throwing that to them to ask if it's going to be part of what that will be taken care of. Apart from that, I wanted to ask what are the real practical steps, especially in terms of engaging the players in standards and quality assurance, as well as compliance in terms of the traceability requirements and then the standards expected by the buyers in the international market. What role are they playing and how are they engaging the players? And thirdly, I wanted to ask also if the exchange has developed an app or an internet platform by which traders can upload their products and buyers can easily connect them, because we are in the connected economy and we are also going into the age of the AI. It's already here, so it's important. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Remy, for that question. I don't know, do we have any of the exchange representative to respond to some of those questions? Otherwise, we'll take other questions while we hope that we get a response from the community exchange representative. Any other question? You can unmute yourself and speak, please. Okay, in the absence of another question, I think we'll move on. So I have a question, Wumi, if you don't mind. I wanted to ask about China. I mean, is GSA making any effort to look at the Chinese market? Because, I mean, that's a huge market. In all the presentations I've had, I mean, I haven't heard much about assessing the Chinese market. Is it that there's no demand from that angle? Wumi, thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. I think for one, the GSA is looking at Asia as a potential next frontier for Shea. And we recently did a study which is still being finalized and soon to be translated to English that kind of looks at the different Asian countries. And interestingly enough, the study actually pinpointed South Korea as one of those key countries. China is indeed an opportunity, but in terms of from an entry point, it could be a bit more challenging. But to be more direct, we are analyzing the potential of that and should be able to concretely publish the direction for SMEs in terms of how they engage the Asian market.
Okay, all right, thank you so much, Fumi. Okay, so we'll move on because of time to the next presentation. Yeah, I think we'll move on to the next presentation at this time. So we have the one of the partners of Sahel Capital Agribusiness Company with us, like we said earlier on, there are two legs to this event today, which is access to market and then access to finance. From the consultations we had with industry players, these are two issues that people are really concerned about. So we thought that it's important to cover these two issues. We've talked about market access since we started these presentations, since we started the event. So I think it's time now to look at the other leg of it, which is access to finance, access to capital. Like many of you know, last year, Sahel Capital Partners, they made an announcement of their investment in one of the share processing companies in Nigeria. So, I mean, they have an experience in investing in the share industry, but that's not to say that they may be doing other investments, but just to hear from them so that those of you who are looking to access funding, it will give you that kind of readiness, the information you need to get yourself ready in the event that, you need to talk to other fund managers to raise funds. So with that, I'm going to invite Mr. Olumide Lawson. Mr. Olumide Lawson is a partner in Sahel Capital Partners to give us his presentation. Yeah, I think we have the slide now. Can you see the slide? Okay, great. All right, so yeah, Olumide, so I think you have the floor now. You have the floor, Olumide Lawson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning. My name is Olumide. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, please.
Yes, good. We can hear you.
Good. So good morning, and thank you very much, Roland, for inviting me, and thank you for the introduction. So as I said, my name is Olumide Lawson. I'm a partner at Sahel Capital, and in a few minutes, I'll tell you about Sahel Capital, what we do. I'll also share with you why we find the Shea sector interesting, and that led us to an investment in Shea. It's interesting because we actually have, I led a transaction where we invested in Shea. It's interesting that I'm speaking after the lady from Global Shea Alliance, because I actually met the potential pipeline at that time at a GSA conference in Abuja a couple of years ago, and that led to a successful investment, And then I would end up by letting you know why we found that particular company interesting. And then, of course, a few pointers that irrespective of the sector, like Roland said, we invest in different sectors. So just some pointers that investors will look out for if they're investing in your business. So if you go to the next slide, so like I said, we're Sahel Capital. We are fund managers. So we have a fund we manage that is called FAFI. FAFI stands for Fund for Agricultural Finance in Nigeria. And this fund is a $65.9 million fund that invests exclusively in agriculture and exclusively in Nigeria. And I think the objective of the fund is, I actually say it in two ways. One is to show that you can make money by investing in agriculture on one hand. On the other hand, is also to show that you can actually impact the life of businesses where you invest in agriculture. So when we're looking at investments, those are the two lenses that we use to look at those investments. We look at those sectors that we know that by investing in, we can actually make commercial returns to both ourselves and to invest and our own investors, and then to also whichever the investing company that we invest in on one hand, and also to show that by that investment, we're going to directly or indirectly impact the lives of several Nigerians, either as shareholders, either as smallholder farmers or as customers. So those are the two lenses that we use to invest. The next slide shows a few of the investments we have made. Our first investment, and I mentioned that we invest in agriculture in Nigeria. We tend to invest all across in Nigeria. Our first investment was in dairy in Kano. After that, we've had investments in poultry, oil palm, cassava, rice, and then sheep, and a couple others. But I think one of the one I'll be focusing on today is our investment in Shea. And I'll just mention as I leave this slide that I think one of the things that makes our investment structure is that before we make any investment, and that typically I think that's how many investors look at them sectors, is that we use a top-down approach. And what that means is that we first look at the sector, that what are the opportunities in this sector from various lenses. After we've established that, yes, it seems that that sector makes sense, we now look down, okay, in that sector, which businesses within that sector actually would be a good one to partner with. Of course, we are, like we said, we have the funds, so we're investors, we are not farmers, so we need to partner with somebody that we feel can give us the opportunities to actually generate the value that we are seeing in that sector, So the first is the sector itself. The second is the company within that sector. I think the third is the value creation strategy, because we don't want to meet a company, invest in, and the company will stay that where they are, So our plan is to go in there, invest, and even move them from where they've been into a higher level, So thanks for this slide. So the first thing we do is we look at the sector, as I said. And this sector, this slide just gives you an idea of what in terms of demand. So the question is, do people really want this Shea? People say that Shea is good. Well, who really wants the Shea? And I think the first surprise that we got was that usually growing up, when you hear of Shea, what my people call Ori or something, you typically think about it can heal any form of skin disease. You use Ori for everything. That's what our grandmothers say. But the biggest shock for us was that the biggest demand for Shea is not necessarily for the cosmetics or for skincare, but what we found out was the biggest demand for Shea, almost 80 and 90% at that time, was actually from the confectionery space or the chocolate sector. I'll say confectionery, but I know that it's more than chocolate. So that was a big surprise to us. And if you can go back a little bit, I don't think I'm on this slide yet. So that was a big surprise. Yes, yes, this is the slide I am on. So that was a big one that we found. And like the lady from GSA said, so I think another thing that also made it look as if, okay, is to find there is that demand. Well, is this a demand that is likely to grow? And the answer was yes again. When we saw that the EU also approved Shea as the cocoa butter equivalent. And that was the first question was why? And again, when you know Shea, you know that at room temperature, Shea is actually harder. It hardens at room temperature. So you can understand why it would be good for chocolates, because that means that if you have your chocolate on your shelf, you can actually in regions that are not as cold, you can actually still maintain that shape that you want, So, and because the EU has approved, it makes sense from an investor perspective to invest in it, because obviously the room will be higher. Then tied closely to this is cocoa itself, as cocoa as a cheaper alternative to Shea as a cheaper alternative to cocoa. So if it's an alternative and you can do as well as an equivalent, so clearly it means that there is room for the growth. So those were some of the things that we saw that if you think about it from an investment perspective, it leaves room that, okay, maybe perhaps an investment here, there's actually room for a demand in this space, Now, moving from the demand now to the supply, so in a way, we've established that people probably will need Shea, So the question is that if the people need Shea, so how is there a supply for Shea? If you go to the next slide, so it goes to where we are, which was in Nigeria. So the question is that we're in Nigeria, we can only invest in Nigeria. So is there any interest in Shea in Nigeria? So the answer was one that we had to look for, and the question was one we had to look for answers for. And the first thing we realized, which was interesting, was that as much as you hear about Shea all over the world, used for chocolates and other things all over the world, it was surprising to hear that most, if not most of, let me not say all, of the Shea that is produced around the West African belt, which was interesting. And the interest didn't stop out there. Another thing that we saw was, okay, we produce so much of the Shea, but Nigeria is also actually one of the largest producers of this same Shea in West Africa. So the question is that yes, West Africa produces, and Nigeria produces a large amount of that shea. So from an investment perspective, and I'm just trying to let you see from an investor's way of thinking how we are looking at that sector, and trying to understand the opportunities there, and even to make this more interesting, we now realize that as much as Nigeria is producing shea, that most of, and I think I'm glad I heard it in another presentation, that most of the exports of shea, especially the processed shea butter, is not done in Nigeria. So I think this question or this puzzle was perhaps the biggest question that even led to for us to understand, because it was, if you think about it, it's almost counterintuitive that Nigeria produces all the shea, whereas other countries like Ghana, Togo, so many other ones actually have processors that actually process this into butter and export. At the time, I know that when a lot of these EU countries, or a lot of these countries accept shea nuts, I know Nigeria used to export a lot of shea nuts, but if you think about it, it doesn't make sense, because these guys will export the shea nuts, and then half of that nut is just chaff that they will probably throw away. So the question is, it just makes more sense for them to want even if it's the crude shea butter. Nigeria was doing almost nothing. I think I've heard conversation about the quality. So even the few processors that did in Nigeria could not meet the quality of the exporter. So from an investor's perspective, that sounds like a good idea. That why is Nigeria not, and what does it take? And at the end of the day, we saw that, okay, it's possible for Nigeria, if we get our acts right, it's possible for Nigeria or a Nigerian processor to invest, to actually make a difference and take some of this market share, from these other countries, So this led us to look around that, okay, who are the potential partners in this space, And if you go to the next slide, that was how we met this company. I guess for some of you that know Sahel, you probably might know the company, but just for the purpose of this, I'll just work with the code name we used at that time, which is Project Sunshine. I think we just got this Sunshine code name because it's looking at that space, it just looks like shea butter just brings so much brightness to everybody. If you think about the women that are in the space, you think about the opportunities that it has brought to so many companies, so many people, it's just like a real sunshine, So we spoke to very many companies, big and small, and in all of this, we came across this particular company called Project Sunshine. So, like I said, we met this company at the Global Shea Alliance conference a couple of years ago. And we saw that they have actually been in that space for quite a while, right from the time that they were exporting cocoa to where they've done a lot of exports of the various products, but the shea had always been in their radar, mostly around the shea nuts, but they had started thinking about, they had seen the opportunity to invest in the space, but they had not seen anybody to help this space in terms of the processing, but I guess they hadn't seen a partner that would help them to actually take the loop. So a lot of what they were doing there was really invested in the exporting of the nuts, exporting of other things, So that was where we came in, and so we asked ourselves, okay, these guys have been in this space. Why do we think that this company is actually interesting? So there were 4 reasons that we identified, which I think is on the next slide. So the first one is access to markets. So I think we had already established that in terms of market, that because of these guys, because of their connection to the shea nut, the shea nut buyers in those days, the AAK, and all the rest, they actually know these people. These guys have been supplying them with, they have been supplying these people with nuts over the years. So over time, they realized they actually had a rapport with them. So if there's room to actually now producing the butter, there's a high chance that they can actually make the connection based on some of this to actually reconnect. And we saw this not only from them telling us, but even from the conversations we've had with them. All the conferences that we've been to, GSA and Co, they were always there networking, which is why I would suggest that, no matter where you are, you have to show your relevance. You have to be able to show where you are and how you can connect. So this kind of conference that we are in now is one that you can't come to this place and just go unnoticed. So they were always there, networking, trying to meet people, trying to understand what was going on in the space, and we found out value very, very useful. And also, so access to market was important, because it's one thing for you to have the product, it's another thing for you to be able to sell the product. Can you hear me? I'm hearing some comments, or can I go on, or was I a comment?
Yes, go on, Olumide, go on. I think it's just somebody who unmuted himself.
Okay. Thank you very much. And in case, please, if you have questions, you can you can put it in the Q&A. I will try to make my sessions short so I can take a few questions. And if in case for any reason I'm not able to take the questions now, while the other sessions are going on, I'll go to the Q&A tab and answer as many of the questions as I can. So the next one we saw was availability of raw materials. So another thing that we found interesting was that this company, Project Sunshine, because of their history in the space, they've been able to create that rapport. They had connections with the farmers. They have put together their own kind of outsourcing, outgrower scheme, where they had connections with some of these farmers, so some of these women, all these the rural nut pickers, And even before they met us, they had annual events where they spoke with the women, tried to understand what the challenges are, trying to see how they even can improve, financing for these women. So we could tell that they already had a relationship in that market, which is very important. There are so many industries, you can call it rice, call it cassava, that access to input is a major issue. So one thing that we saw that they got right, which obviously requires additional input, was their connection with their input. We found that very, very interesting. A third one that we saw was the processor. So we are from our analysis and study of the market, we knew that very many countries had they've seen the need to process shea, but one issue that we had seen was that very few people were actually processing it. So apart from us saying it, we could tell that this Project Sunshine already has a good story. They already saw the opportunity. They didn't have the funding, but already saw the opportunity, and they already even crafted their own strategy towards actually capturing it. So it wasn't us trying to convince them to go into that, but they already had. In fact, they actually bought a few of the products, the plans that they required. So what they needed from us was how to harness some of these things to actually become a full-fledged processor. So that was what we saw. The last one that I think was very important was the clear impact story. If you remember that I had mentioned that when it comes to our story in Fafin or in Sahel, we look at the commercial opportunities in the space and also the impact. And I don't think any other subsector in the agri space can tell the story about impact like the way Shea does. If it talks about the kind of people that is actually impacted by this, if it talks about the number of women, that were involved, we're surprised to hear that most of the Shea pickers are actually women. So investing in this sector will not only impact the lives of a lot of the rural population, but specifically impact the lives of thousands of Nigerian rural women. So in terms of the story, you get the shea butter and then the Sunshine story just shows exactly the kind of impact you can have investing in this space. And if you go to the next slide, and you talking about the impact, so as a business, we just have to ensure that before we do any business, apart from showing the commercial opportunities there, we have to at least be able to show that any investment we invest in actually meets two of our impact criteria. So for Fafin, they have about 8 criteria that we must be able to meet at least 2, And looking at Shea, we realize that even being conservative, we're able to meet at least 6 of these 8 criteria. So you can imagine if the pass mark is supposed to be 2/8 and you meet 6/8. I think in terms of developmental impact, it's a no-brainer. And on this point, I would just like to mention again, because I know that a few people here would have been looking at investors for their business. So I think one thing I've learned over the few years I've been in agriculture is that there are 2 groups of investors. There are some investors that are critically looking at returns. There are a few others that look at returns, but also look at the impact of their money, and there are others, of course, that look at combination. I think the ones that look at the combination is really a large amount. So when you're presenting your investment or presenting your business, it's always good to know what makes some of we investors tick. So if for any reason you feel that this investor will be interested in in commercial return and also impact. So what you are selling is really how much you can make in terms of return from investing in your business, which may be high, may not be as high, but also showing the picture of how that investment can actually impact. Because you'll be surprised at the number of investors that are now looking at impact, particularly the younger generation. They're actually more interested in ensuring that things are, sustainability, people like the rural people are happy and not just return. So that might also change the way you actually presenting investment opportunities, how you're telling your story. So it actually tells the story. So now if you go to the next slide, so we've seen in a way some of the things that why we feel that the sector is interesting. We've seen why we feel that this Sunshine as a company is interesting. So now I think the question for us is that what can we see, what can we do to actually even improve and make Sunshine a better company than what we met? And then we looked at this, and I'm just speaking because of the timing. I'm just speaking in the top level issues that we saw and that we thought we could address. So the first one was in the production process. So one of the things that we found interesting, was we found that how can we actually improve the efficiency in that space? For people that are in Shea, people in Shea usually joke that there's no wastage in Shea. Everything about Shea is useful, and that is actually true. So we saw that we can actually improve efficiency by using the waste that comes from after you've extracted the oil from the kernel. You can actually use that waste to actually as a biomass for actually generating energy. So if you want to create fuel for your boilers and coal, you can. And we realize that if you're doing that, would allow Sunshine to investing in that technology, in that asset will create a major reduction in the cost of power. If you're in Nigeria, you know what power is, be it diesel or gas or whatever, or even the grid. If you're able to reduce anything that can help you to reduce your cost of power, will go such a long way to help your bottom line. The second is in terms of sales and distribution. Like I said, because Sahel, all we do is invest in agriculture. That's what we've been doing for about 10 years. So we also we can use our connection, our knowledge of this space, to actually help to even broaden the customer base of this company. Like I said, so they already have their own network. So you can imagine a company that has a network of potential investors, and we a company that is exclusively invested in agriculture. So there's just the synergy was just unbelievable. The third area that we saw is personnel. So of course we know that we had to improve efficiency, we had to strengthen the management, but more importantly, we saw room for knowledge transfer where a lot of the work that was being done by the expatriates could actually be taught to Nigerians. So not only are we improving the lives of the smallholder farmers, but also improving the lives of the locals as well. The locals in Kenya, people that can actually learn and actually be the potential managers of this company in the months or years ahead. The last area that we've also found interesting, and I'm glad that a few people had mentioned, has been the area of what are the potential expansion strategies? We thought about refinery. And I think I had mentioned of, obviously we had talked about possibilities of opportunities rather of Shea for as cocoa butter equivalent, but there's still a big demand for Shea as in the cosmetic industry, So we thought, but obviously for most of the cosmetic industry, they will want the organic Shea, they will want perhaps the refined Shea, so we thought that there's obviously expansion opportunities in the area of Shea into building a refinery to do cosmetics and other value added areas, because really at the end of the day, that is where the value is. The other is even expanding the current mill to see how we can, not only because it seems as if the opportunities in Shea is almost unbelievable. So we looked at ways that we can actually involve ourselves to actually expand this as well. So in closing, I would speak to you about a last slide I put, which is just basically what we look at, and I will run by it. That is, apart from the specific things that we saw and we liked about Shea, there are some things that any business, no matter how wonderful your business idea is, there are a few things that any investor would like to see in place. That without them in place, they will probably not find your business interesting enough for investment. The first one I'll mention is character. And this is what you call it. We usually like to use the analogy of a marriage. So no matter how well a lady can cook or whatever, you want to know exactly the kind of person you're actually tying the knots with. So it's important for us to know who you are as a business owner, as a business owner, how you also dealt with other people. So for the other people that you've dealt with, your customers, your bankers and co, how well have you felt treated with them? Your loans, have you actually been paying down? Your commitments to your suppliers and co, have you actually been honoring them? Because we know that how you treat them is probably how you're going to treat us as well. So we look out for some of those things. The second is competent management. So we like businesses where we go there and we see that the owner knows what they are doing, they know where they are going. But not only that, we also want to see one that is not just a one-man show, at least a business that the person is planning to allow other people to grow as well. So we look at what is being put in place to ensure that outside this superstar, there are actually people around the room that can over time actually take up the mantle. What is the succession plan for this business and all that. Then a third one we look at is scalability. So we see your business, we like your business, but if your business is valued at 10 million naira, and then in 5 years time or 10 years time, we know that the likelihood of the business, no matter how much we put there, it's still going to be that 10 million naira. We probably won't invest. So it's for us to see the possibility that together working with you, that this your 10 million naira business can become in 2 or 3 or 4 years, 5 years time, can become 15 million or 20 million or 200 million. So what are the opportunities? How can it grow? How can we, working with you, because I didn't mention that what we do is not a debt fund, it's more of equity. So we make money where you make money. So how can we work with you? Holding your hand that will make this company a mega business, just by seeing the opportunity. But we need you to be able to work with us to understand what the opportunities are. A fourth one is financial records, because the numbers say everything, so it's one thing for you to tell us that I'm making this money or I can make this money, but what can we see? What are the revenues looking like? What are the margins looking like? So we need to see your numbers, and not only your numbers, not only your financial records, even your operational records. What is your extraction rate looking like? How much are you? Things like that will help you see that there's some level of efficiency in your business. The last one is regulatory compliance. Because we say this, we actually just want people, because once we invest and it becomes public, the government, everybody's going to hear about it. They're going to come after you. So if you're a company that has not been paying your taxes, your company that have been settling regulators, you get either the environmental guys, and all that is going to come out. And the kind of liability that can come up might even be more than all our own investments. So we always encourage that while you're still small, while you're still good, while you're still looking for investors, find ways to clean up your act, find ways to tidy up your business, so that anybody coming will come in and see that indeed there is actually, this company is clean and we can actually invest in it, And so I think these are the pointers of what we look out for in any business that we do, because we do only agricultural business, but whether it's Shea or not, these are what we look out for. So these are the points I have. I'll be happy to speak more on any of the points or any of the issues that I've raised. And if there are questions, I'll be happy to take questions as well. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Olumide, for that presentation. Thank you so much. I think we have people who want to ask questions. We'll just take a few questions. If there are any, you can just unmute yourself and ask directly to Mr. Olumide while we still have him. Can we take one or two questions, please?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Go ahead. Mention your name, say your name and the organization, please.
Hamza Abdurrahman Zubair is my name, and I'm the CEO of LAM Global Multi-Service Limited. My question goes to the last presenter, because the Nigerian Export Producer Council make an allegation that our products are being rejected abroad due to packaging. So I don't know, and the people have not been talking about packaging. How are we going to package that product in order to attract more investment? That is my question, please.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Do we have any other question? Olumide, you want to take it, or you want us to take additional questions?
No. Maybe if you don't, maybe I should just take any other question so that I'll just address them together.
Okay, so let's harvest one or two other questions. Do we have any other question? Pat Marker, you raised up your hand earlier on, and I think I've unmuted you. You can go ahead and ask your question. Pat Marker, you can ask your question. Otherwise, Olumide, you can just go ahead and respond to this one. And if there are other stakeholders who would like to respond on the issue of packaging, please, you're free to give a response. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Roland, and thank you very much, Hamza, for the question. So I think the issue of packaging or issue of quality is key. And I think it was mentioned earlier on, and I will tell you that, so it's not only in Shea. I know that in a few other value chains, Cashew and Co., we've seen issues where potential customers have rejected, the output from Nigeria. And I think in some of the issues have been not only from the packaging, but even in the processing, the way that we are processing it. And the issues have been from issues of the quantity of the free fatty acids and a few others, So what we've seen, and I will talk about Project Sunshine, is that on our own parts, so we've actually had some of those issues where our potential customers have raised issues about quality. And so what we have seen is where before we actually send test samples to some of these guys, just to let them see what we can produce. And based on some of the feedback from them, we've been able to specifically address which areas of our processes and businesses that we need to tweak and modify to be able to reach that business. We couldn't do it ourselves, so we actually had to get technical advisors to address it. Clearly, no matter how much somebody needs a product, if it doesn't meet their own quality standard, they will not buy it. But the good thing is that it just takes a couple of samples for them to see and understand. So what I would suggest is that I think I won't know what the government is doing, but I think as a business owner yourself, if you can connect with potential people, larger processors or producers that may be able to provide some level of advice on how to improve the quality of your products. I don't look at it only from the packaging, but also from even the production process. You know, sometimes the issues might actually be addressable before you get to the packaging. Now, at the point of the packaging as well, I think if you can find advisors to see how you can actually improve, I think that area can actually be addressed as well. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think somebody raised up his hand. Mohamed Kotangura, you want to say something on the issue of packaging? Or can we take a comment from the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, Mr. Afolabi? You want to say something on packaging? What is the agency doing to support producers on packaging?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. It's good to be here. I've followed all along I've been following the program, and it's good to see so many interested parties and stakeholder partners trying to take Nigeria share sector to the level we are hoping it will be. Because a few years ago, it was largely, there was so much disruption and lack of organization. But thank God for the WTO in 2010. They brought a program called the STDF Project 172, Standard Trade Development Facility, which we were fortunate to be the implementing agency. About 15 government agencies took part. It was basically targeted at developing the Nigerian share and sesame to be able to meet global buyers' requirements. NASPAN was one of the big stakeholders involved. That project produced 4 processing facilities, which are now model processing centers in 4 states. So as regards the question on packaging, if you look at global trade, when you talk of technical barriers to trade, packaging and labeling are one of the technical barriers for which, that could hinder or lead to rejection in international trade, because different global markets with different packaging requirements. As an exporter, you need to understand the packaging and labeling requirements of your product for the intended markets. If you're doing shea nuts, you need to know that if I'm going to export shea nuts, it should be in jute bags, seaworthy or brand new jute bags. If I'm doing shea butter, if it's B2B, I'm sending to a cosmetic company, in what form will it be required? Is it in polypropylene bags, food grade? If I'm doing B2C, to an end user, a consumer, in what form will it? So that's why we face a lot of rejection because of lack of know-how by our exporters on packaging and labeling requirements for various global markets. So, and it's like I said earlier, it's a major technical barrier to trade, because if you look at volume of rejection, one of the reasons for rejection is also packaging and labeling issues. Other issues like even documentary issues. People don't know which entry document should accompany the product. A phytosanitary, a certificate of origin, those are also barriers that could hinder exports. So, and packaging and labeling, like I said. So what we've tried to do, because we deal more with, in as much as we do with the big players, the big they have a way of taking care of their problem most times. So most of our products are tailored at the SMEs, the small players. So what we try to do is we have a specialized unit in the product development department. It's called the packaging unit. And we have a good resource person there who is well trained, not only in Nigeria, in Malaysia, and in India. So we try to do packaging clinics. At least we've done that in virtually all the states of the country for various product sectors. Sometimes we do them general, that means all product sectors, or sometimes they are targeted, maybe a particular product, depending on sometimes on request or just trying to do product development activities. So we do that, and we also collaborate with Institute of Packaging. We collaborate, there are times we bring packaging experts from outside the country. We collaborated with USAID at the time to bring some packaging experts from US. specifically to train exporters, SME exporters on packaging and labeling requirement for the US market. So through even most of our product development activities, if they are product based, when we're talking about the product, we also mention the package and labeling requirement for that product. If you are doing agricultural produce, what are the basic packaging and labeling requirements? If you're doing finished product, processed product, value-added product, the packaging and label requirements are also different. What are the entry requirements for different regions, for different markets? So through our training programs, capacity building programs, technical sessions, we try to disseminate some of these informations. But also it can never be enough. We hope to continue doing more because this is the stage in which we need to really ramp up our non-oil exports. We're in recession, oil prices are dwindling. So the only way out for us is non-oil exports. And if we don't address packaging and labeling concerns, we'll continue to experience reject. So by addressing, if for our Shea practitioners, you can come to us, you can talk to some of our stakeholders. We are there online. Our website is active. We have offices in about 32 states now, so that we could guide you appropriately on the appropriate packaging and label requirement for your targeted market, be it shea nut, shea butter, depending on who you are dealing to, a business to business or business to consumer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Afolabi. You didn't mention your organization. Mr. Afolabi is from the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, with offices around the country, but the headquarters is in Abuja. So please, you can feel free to check with their regional offices. And then maybe if you're in Abuja, to check the headquarters office to get access to some of the services from the Nigeria Export Promotion Council. Those are very useful information, I think. Someone is asking a question to Mr. Olumide Lawson. Is asking your contact and then how to apply, how would they be able to engage your organization, assuming they are seeking for equity investment? So maybe you want to,
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
So I guess I'll be happy to share my contact. I think Roland has my contact. I think if you don't mind sharing, I'm fine with that. I'm easiest to reach by email because I think you can reach me by email, and that is one. Secondly, so I think if we speak, one thing that we also do is that many times when we speak with you, we let you know what we need from you, in terms of investment. So you might be in Shea, you might be in another sector, but I think what we can help you to do is also to see, one, if we can invest immediately, or what you need to do to get you to be investment ready, because as I said, because we are equity investors, so we have to be sure that you are ready for equity as well. So we have our stringent rules, of kind of investments that we do. But of course, companies have met it, and we've seen many other companies that initially didn't look like they could, and they've over time improving themselves, improving their businesses, even their business acumen, they've been able to actually be investable. So I'll be happy to speak with you, to assess and appraise your business, and also let you know what will make it interesting for us or any other financier to invest in your company. So please, I think you can get my details from Roland, and you can take it up from there.
Okay, Olumide, thank you so much for that response. So the other part of the question is the size of your fund, which I think was in your slide, which is 65.
Yeah, so our current fund is 65.9. We are more or less done with the investment of that fund. I think we'll probably be doing one more investment, and then we are done with that fund. Obviously, we'll be, as a private equity fund, we'll be raising other funds. So, but that said, we are also, like I said, we also indirectly finance businesses through a few of our businesses. Like for instance, Project Sunshine works with other smaller businesses to see how to help them as well. So in addition to what we can do directly, we also help to support businesses indirectly as well. So for our current fund, we are more or less fully invested, our 65.9. but we're also looking at how we can actually support businesses through indirect investment by some of the companies that we've invested in already.
So you let me know when the inspection is likely to.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Olumide. So may I request that people should mute themselves? Mr. Folabi, can you mute yourself? We can hear you on your phone. Can you mute yourself, please, Mr. Folabi? All right. So Olumide, just one or two questions more, because the issue of access to finance is very important.
Yes, sure.
There are several SMEs here. You know, you are a member of the Venture Capital and Equity, Private Equity Association in Nigeria. I know that there are the private equity people like yourself. You have a very high threshold of investment, which is like $3 million, and the companies must have been in operation for a while. You know, but in terms of startup, projects, in processing of shea nut, what's your advice on that? I mean, how can people? Is there enough information amongst your colleagues in the Venture Capital Association about the opportunities in the shea industry? That's one. Number two question, is there something that NASPAN and other stakeholders like ourselves can do, to sort of create awareness about some of these opportunities? We're talking about putting share in the commodity exchange. We know what is required. There's need for standardization, there's need for mechanization, there's need for funding, patient capital. Do you think that it may make sense for NASPAN and partners to do like road shows to engage potential funding sources about these opportunities, so that those who have projects in the pipeline, in form of startups, they can be able to get funding to start mechanized processing? What do you think?
No, thank you very much, Roland. And those are very, very good questions. So on the first one, and you're right, so we're members of the Venture Capital and Private Equity Association of Nigeria, And one thing that I can tell you is that, let me put it this way, and I'll be a bit frank. So I'm sure you know that the way private equity or even venture capital is structured, is typically not best for startup, And by startup, I mean companies that are just a few weeks or a few months into business, So for that, I always recommend is that if you like the idea, the idea, it's always good to put your money where your mouth is. No matter how small you are, it's better that you actually, and this will be my advice, start out as small as you can. Even if it means getting money from family, friends, well-wishers, fools, whoever. It's always best if you come and meet something on the ground. Like for the example I gave about Sunshine, we knew that there was opportunity in Shea, but we want to know, we also met a lot of people that had the idea, but there's nothing as good as somebody that has their hands and feet dirty already, So it's always good to, as much as possible, just to encourage the financiers as well, to, as much as possible, get your hands dirty a little bit. Don't wait and look for funding. You get whatever funding that you get, and whatever you're doing, try and do it as if you are looking for money. So you're there doing it as best as you can, trying to keep to the best standards that you can. So whoever is coming to see something that they can nurture. Like I mentioned, there's scalability. So people don't mind seeing something small, but seeing what you are putting in place that they can actually grow with. So I think my advice is, if you're looking for funding, look out for ways that you can actually show anybody coming that you are serious. And the beauty of funding now, and you mentioned PE, you mentioned VCs, but there's a whole group of funding opportunities that is also coming up because of all the issues in the capital market and the debt market, equity market, So there are now opportunities where individuals and small businesses are looking for ways to invest, And because of that, we are seeing small funds that are coming together, almost like crowdfunding, and that, of course, some are more structured than others. They are looking for putting people's money together. And some of these funds don't have the kind of stringent funds that PE require, And then so some of these things help to actually show that as a business owner, you are serious. The second area that you raised, which I think is very important, is what NASPAN, what you are doing, Roland, the GS is doing, it's all just, I think it's the more the spotlight is put on Shea, the more interest that there will be out there. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to see where there's money. And then, like I mentioned, where we found the investment we did was at a GSA conference. If that conference didn't happen, we probably would have met the company or would have met them at that point. So I think the more the different stakeholders are shining the spotlight at Shea, I think the better. And I think what will also help as well is shining the spotlight on potential customers as well. Because we've seen that we've said that the European companies are interested and they've probably been buying from Ghana and co. So what can they see that will make them think, hold on, perhaps Nigeria can give us even better opportunities. These guys have all the shit. So I think while we are sensitizing financiers, I think also sensitizing potential customers as well, will also help as well, And I definitely believe a lot in networking, because I think networking always have a medium/long-term impact on businesses. So I think forums that are bringing together the government, bringing together potential suppliers, bringing together potential customers will go a long way in shining that spotlight, and the more the spotlight is on Shea, the more the interest will be, So I think all you can, as much as you can, you get webinars, seminars, conferences, you get roundtable events. I think we just continue to share that. I think that will definitely increase the interest in Shea. And of course, celebrating investments done. If you hear that Sahel has done a business in Sunshine, for instance, how can some of these businesses, make that noise? If GSA heard that we at one of the conferences we met all of them, how can we celebrate some of these little successes that will make people say, okay, what is even in this Shea that people are interested in? I think that will go a long way in improving the access to Shea and access to financing and interest in Shea.
Thank you so much, Olumide. I mean, we hear you very clearly, and on the part of the Nigeria Agribusiness Register and AgNet. I mean, AgNet stands for Agribusiness Networking. So this is what we do, bringing people together to network, to share ideas, and to see how they can get funding for their project. We'll keep doing it, and we think that the efforts, will bear fruit. On the issue of marketing, it's very important. Like you mentioned, there's need to engage with foreign buyers, and that's why we're launching this Nigeria Access to Market program, so that we continually engage with buyers to know what they're looking for, and then communicate that back to our producers, so that production is aligning with what market is looking for. So it's very important. And also we're looking at getting Shea into the commodity exchange, working together with the stakeholders. So I think we're doing the right things, and I've seen a lot of comments, on the comment section and the Q&A section. People, commenting. Somebody saying that, look, how do we maintain the tempo that has started with all of this? We'll keep doing it, and thank you so much for all your contributions and your comments and interventions. So we'll begin to round up. We want to move quickly to the next section, which is the presentation from the states. The real action is at the state level. This is where production takes place. So we need to hear from the states. What are their plans, their programs, the incentives, the enabling environment that are in place to bring investors on board, and then bring traders, to set up, procurement centers in the production areas. So without much ado, let me invite Niger State representative to say a few words about, the readiness of the state to work with investors and work with our traders. And then we have other states. I think Benue State is here. I think they're still with us. So after Niger State, whatever state that is left here, we would like to have them give their presentation regarding their readiness to work with the private sector. So Fatima, you have the floor.
Thank you, Roland. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Fatima Ushishi. I'm the DG of the Niger State Commodity and Export Promotion Agency. And basically our mandate is to develop various value chains in the state for the export market. And obviously Shea is very key to the state. Due to our vast landmass, and our location in the Shea Belt. Niger State has the majority of the shea resources in the country, and estimated, 54% of the trees. And we've got shea trees available in all our local governments. So with this comparative advantage, it's very crucial that the state, fully utilizes and maximizes on this significant natural resource by converting them into direct revenues for the state and its population. So that being said, this share sector is very unique in that it's very much relies on the foundation group, the rural women, because as we know, share is not like maize or rice. It's not really being planted. The nuts come from trees that have existed for up to 200 years, and we rely on these rural women to go in and collect these nuts. So there's honestly no share sector without these rural women, but they are quite marginalized. They're not getting, any kind of value for all their efforts. So in Niger State, we've recognized that, we need to invest in this group. We need to strengthen this group, and we're doing so by the establishment of the Niger State Share Cooperative Network. So what we're doing is right now, because the cooperatives are still at the primary level and they're just scattered all over the states and they're working in silos. So we have to coalesce this group into a network so they can speak with one voice. So as we're establishing this network, there'll be an umbrella group in each local government. So once we have this network in place, it will be easier now to engage this group as just an individual entity instead of going around into the scattered villages. So what we're trying to do in this network is that as we're going to the villages, we're identifying the registered cooperatives and also the informal groups, get them registered properly, strengthen the cooperative structures, and then we can start saying we can develop this group for the importance of the sector. So as we're strengthening this foundation group, we also need to invest in our supply chain infrastructure, because once we set up the cooperatives network, there'll be sub networks under the Apex network. There'll be the share collection network, share processing network, and the share formulation network. And with this share collection network, it's easier now to go directly through this network to offtake nuts from the women and not have to rely too much on all the buying agents. At least, the women can engage directly and we can pull them directly into global value chain if they exist in a strong collection network that we can go and access. So we have to invest in a supply chain infrastructure to improve the supply chain integration. So we're talking warehouses, handling technologies.
Fatima,
we also have to invest in our quality.
Go ahead. We missed you shortly. Go ahead. Fatima, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So we also need to invest in our quality infrastructure. We are lacking labs, handling technologies. We need to invest in drying technologies, packaging technologies. And we need to invest in processing, but it's not just about establishing big, share processing and fractionation factories. We sort of need, in the state, we're targeting at 3 levels: the rural level, the MSME level, and the industrial level, because we found that investment at the high levels does not really translate into any kind of rural economic development. So it's important that we are able to distribute low cost, low tech technologies at the rural level, and we're looking to proliferate the existing common processing centers, common facility centers. We're looking to proliferate across all local governments in the states at the rural level. We're also looking to pull in investments into the smaller scale, share processing technologies, as well as, the large industrial, processing technologies, fractionation. We also need to invest in value addition to share. We need, the entrepreneurs to come in and start making cosmetics formulations. It's not all about attracting like the big investors like Sahel and what have you. I mean, we're looking for, that, the youth, the young people just to come in and just start, making cosmetics formulations, because the market in Nigeria and West Africa is pretty large. So that's also an area we're looking at. And we also need to invest in like a proper formulation lab, because we find that a lot of our entrepreneurs, their formulations are pretty unsophisticated. And, these formulations cannot really, access any kind of high value market. So we also need to invest in a proper formulation lab that can create unique formulations acceptable in the market. We also have to invest in a local shea processing equipment, fabrication technologies. It's not always about importing the equipment we need, especially as the naira, the value of the naira is just sort of dropping every day. I mean, we need to start, investing in this local fabrication technologies. We also need to look at investing in new shea derivatives, for example, like shea fruit, shea juice from the fruits. This is something they're already doing in Burkina Faso and Mali, and we're not doing it here. And I've also heard of something called shea honey. So just all these derivatives we need to look at. And it's very key that we can't invest in these derivatives if we don't have that foundation group, the rural women properly organized, because they're the only ones that go into the village and can access this fruit. We can't get there. So if we don't have these women organized, we just can't even think of investing in these new derivatives. We also need to invest in waste to wealth initiative and technologies. I think someone from Sahel already touched upon this. Share cake, share waste, goes into fertilizers and for energy generations. I mean, this is wealth being wasted unless we can invest in harnessing, the technology to get this revenue. We also need to invest in organic certification of our parklands. If we can do this, at least our share can, the value of our share can increase fivefold. And finally, we have to start looking at the sustainability of this industry. We need to, in Niger State, we need to invest in a survey of our parklands, really, because, we keep reading about, we're only accessing 40% of the nuts available. I mean, we need like a proper survey. We need to find, are there any parklands that are still just, untouched? How can we now go and access this food? What's the size and value of our share resource? I mean, we need to invest in the survey for that. We also need to invest in parkland management, really, because again, these trees are pretty old, and again, the yield, drops from year to year. So sort of need to, invest in parkland management to see how we can increase the yield of this resource. We also need to invest in advocacy and sensitization on the share resource. I mean, the trees are being cut down across the share parklands, and this is like a huge issue, really. And again, it all goes back to, women not getting full value for their, for their efforts. I mean, if it's not paying them in naira and kobo, they're just not going to bother. And apparently, like the share tree is worth $350 as is, for charcoal and firewood. And unfortunately, the share trees make the best firewood. So again, these are people living in the rural areas. I mean, if someone's going to offer them $350, they're going to cut down that tree. So it's a real serious issue. So this is what we need to invest in, just to ensure sustainability of the industry. And we also need to invest in the establishment of new parklands, because I know there's research being carried out on, this high yielding varieties fruiting after 5 to 7 years. I mean, we need to start investing in that in the state. So I think that's kind of where we are in the state, in a nutshell. So again, Niger State, we're open, to investors and partnerships. Really, like I said, we have most of the share resource in the state, and the share tree, share nut, I mean, it's very key to us in the state. So this is our number one product, and Niger State is ready and willing and able to partner with any investor, big or small, that wants to come into the state, and set up. So thank you, Roland.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Fatima, for your presentation. Yeah, so some people are asking for the contact of Olumide Lawson. I think he has put his email on the chat function. So please go there and get his contact. And so maybe Fatima, you also want to put your contact on the chat function so that people can reach you. And those that have questions or they want to, make further inquiries regarding how to engage with Niger State, you can put your email there as well. So Hamza Bello is raising up his hands. He wants to make an intervention. So Hamza, you can go ahead. Let me unmute you. Yeah, go ahead, Hamza Bello. Introduce yourself, your organization, and then let's have your comment. Hamza Bello, you have the floor. Can you hear me? You can unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Hamza Bello. I'm the Executive Secretary and CEO of Niger State Investment Promotion Agency. I want to thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity to actually speak or to be part of this discussion. I haven't listened carefully to submissions from all the experts. I'm going to speak from the investment point of view. And this has to be very generic, but I'll try as much as possible to make it specific to the Shea development sector. Let me also commend your organization for actually putting up this platform and then bringing the right people to speak on it. And I think it's been very interesting discussion so far, especially having the you leading this very drive at the same time, having the president of the NAFAN, who is again the son of the soil of Niger State, leading this very drive. Yes, my concerns on the all issues raised, which has to do with investment, and especially in this very sector, there have been so many and several interventions, both at the federal and of course at the state level, and I'm going to be very specific to Niger State. I've listened to the Director General, Commodity and Export Promotion Agency, giving a highlight of several interventions that have taken place and some of the things that are actually doing to actually strengthen this very sector. But my concern is that I think there is a need for your organization and for the entire experts and the organization at the federal and state to actually come up with a clear definition of the nature and what should be the nature of the intervention of government involvement in the share sector development. And except we're able to get it very clearly in terms of policy, harmonized policy that actually what we call a specific policy, well, generally some we can refer to as sector-specific incentive, not incentive this time around, but policy that drives that very subsector of the agriculture. That when you're able to pick that very policy, it is harmonized. It is what you can look at, what guides you to understand and guide the investment decision and try to invest in that very sector. That is one. And there's also the need for us to also be mindful of the price regulation of this very product. Virtually both at international and state local level. What determines the pricing of this very commodity? How do the business people that are involved with the private sector get to understand the market regulation at the same time the ready market that they can actually go to actually get what they need to do? Especially in Niger State, the president of NAFA, who again, I must commend him because he started the development of share sector in Niger State with the intervention of GIZ and some other when he was Director General. Very beautiful. And we've not been able to move away from there since then. And I think there's need, since Niger State is occupying or is said to be producing or owns about 50% of the share trees in Nigeria, then certainly there's need for us to actually be a role model, to actually be a pilot, for us to have a pilot program that actually will present this very sector as a sector that is actually economically viable, as we know it is. But we've not been able to get that right up now. Now, yes, perhaps because of political intervention and any other thing, but again, there is an association of Global Shea Global Alliance, and have been playing very fundamental and major role in actually giving direction to this very sector. My only concern is that I don't know how many players, whether it's a level playing ground for all associations and all leaders globally to actually look at how they can participate in the development of this very sector. except we're able to see if there's a monopoly somewhere, and that monopoly has to be broken and give room for a liberal participation of virtually all market players and business players. So in order to make it one of the sectors that will be attracting the inflow of foreign direct investment, I listened to a presentation where one of the presenters said the sector attracts global demand has grown up to $30 billion. How much of this 30 billion globally is the global attraction of the market that comes to Nigeria? And I think it's a thing of concern for us as an investment promotion agency to know the inflow of FDI that comes into the state. In this 30 billion or so, how much percentage comes to Niger State? Haven't the almost 50% control over how do we preserve this trees? And I think there has to be a deliberate policy. And Niger State, yes, there is, but the enforcement has not actually been very effective. And we need to actually come up with a model, best practices that we can actually adopt to see how we can actually protect this very the share trees. And of course, to enforce some of the policies that are also on ground, if there are. If there's none, then we need to actually come up and get a consultant, a very strong consultant that will harmonize a liberal policy that will allow a level ground participation and look at the value chain development from the women participation at the grassroots, the picking the nuts, and then the processing, of course, the quality control, and then where the markets are. There's also the issue of preservation, which is very key, and quality control. And again, I know that your organization, Mr. Roland, you're leading the some states to see how that the issue of aggregation center. I don't know how far they help this very sector, and I'm sure not
Okay, Hamza, your network is poor now. We can't hear you well.
I've not also seen a time that have share trees. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I think it has to do. You are shutting yourself. Okay. What I'm just trying to say is that let's try.
Okay, Hamza, I think we hear you clearly. Your points are very valid. Your network is not very good right now, so I may have to let you go.
To see, Mr. Roland.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
How can partner?
We can hear you now.
How can partner with all these leading organizations like Shea, Global Shea Alliance, that seems to have the knowledge and expertise, and they've been doing this for quite a while. Let's see how we can actually bring them on board and partner with the states. This time around, to be more focused on the interventions that are there, the gaps that are there in developing this very sector. And I think there should be a deliberate attempt to actually bring all the governors to actually take ownership in driving this very, very sector that is so robust and so viable in bringing economic development in Nigeria as a whole. So job creation that we're looking for, yeah, that is it. Investment angle. This is a very big sector that can also help us to do that. I've also seen the issue of matching grant. Yeah, somebody made mention of the fund for matching grant. I think it will not be a welcome idea if we can get funds set aside somewhere that can actually complement the efforts of most of our rural women and some of the programs that are ongoing. Niger State is particularly Niger State. We are ready for investment and we are ready to accommodate all interests and ideas from all the players, global players that in this sector, given the advantage of our position in this very sector. We are opened. We have been able to put in place some of the favorable policies that inform decision at the state level. And so in addition to some of the incentives that are there at the federal level, in Niger State, we have some others that we're ready to actually give it out to investors. The environment for them to actually gain is ongoing. The governor has also given us a matching order to that respect to actually review some of the investment policies, especially in some of the sectors and agri sector that will help to position the state. And that again, we are also doing it. We are doing a collaboration with GIZ and NIPC and some other. And again, something more strongly to see how we can also help the commodity and SB across other states to see how they can.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Hamzat. The network is not good at all.
I think price regulation, capacity building for women. This. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Hamzat. The network is not really good. Can't hear you very well now. Thank you. I think the points you made now, they are very valid, very important points. You talked about the issue of policy, industry policy that will incentivize investments. That's very important. I think the Ministry of Trade and Investment last year, they started a policy, a national share policy that looks at all the different aspects of the value chain and how to promote investments, into the value chain. I don't think that policy is ready yet, but I think it's something that NASPAN and other stakeholders can follow up with the Ministry of Trade and Investment. We need to have a national share policy to guide investment activities within the sector. I think it's important. So that's something that we're going to put on record. We're going to take away from this meeting to look at, how to follow up with the Ministry of Trade and Investment on the national share policy. You raised other very important points regarding what you're doing in Niger State. So I think it's important that people are aware of this. And I think GSA is available for partnership to promote the country and some of the states in international forums. So I think it's something that people should be aware of and willing to take advantage of it to work with GSA to promote their states, to foreign investors. So with that, we would like to invite Benue State to say a few words regarding their readiness for investments and for trade. May we have the representative from Benue State government say a few words? Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Brother Emmanuel Acha. I am the Dex Officer, Shea in Benue, representing Trade and Investment. I represent the Honorable Commissioner.
Okay.
We in Benue, when the Shell business got to us some years back, we started a couple of things here, which as we are even participating here, so many other things have come up, which will also stick in to make things better, because it has been a very interesting thing to us. Before even the action plan for the share sector development in Nigeria was printed out, we have started doing a couple of things here, like the sensitization, which we considered very important. The 23 local governments of Benue have a lot of shell trees there. So we, because of the way people were just cutting down trees and using for charcoal and other things, we needed to go right to the rural areas to sensitize and make sure that was actually reduced. We've done a lot of workshops in most of the local governments, training rural women and especially youths that are right in the villages. And in all those workshops, we organized. The traditional rulers were involved, telling them even the government regulations that are against cutting down trees. And in all the workshops we also did, we carried along the people from National Research Institute. Most of the time, they come along with new varieties. The farm plantations of Shea. Have a big one in Guma local government. Excellency of a very serious stakeholder in the states in this aspect. We have some cooperatives that are already on the ground now doing this. The challenge actually, as I earlier said, was in trying to protect existing as trees have been planted. If the existing trees, destruction of them is reduced, this will go a long way. When the thing actually started picking up, the challenge that some people had was after processing. Some of them will find it difficult to get people to buy these things. It was a really big challenge, especially when the security situation in Benue got very bad. Most of the local governments in Benue, as you're aware, most of the people are still displaced even right now, especially in local governments that actually picked up the processing very well. That thank God everything is going back to normal, and we believe that most of the people that recorded a lot of waste after processing, people to buy, even those that came around to buy were offering very poor prices. We believe that subsequently that we go up. We really know that with the kind of unemployment that is hitting the country, there's serious employment in this area, and the government have really been very serious about it. The Honorable Commissioner would have been here, but right now there's a youth summit in Benue, which he's actively participating in. And the primary thing as industry, trade and investment we're doing is bringing up ways to try to advise the government on how to at least do things that will reduce unemployment. And this is also a very serious aspect. We seem to be very, very interested, and we're following up and actually seeing that some of these things we're discovering now will really bring our people to key into them. So, like I don't know, this particular workshop, we even wanted to make it would have been broader than some of those that have registered would have been more than this. Just that even though your letter was released earlier, it really got to the table a little late. So the mobilization was not really very well. But I see that from 10 o'clock I've been here, and I really learned a lot. And there are many things that one will really still have to put down to make things better. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for your intervention. We look forward to working with you in Benue State. So I think we're coming close to the end of the presentations. I don't know if there's another state. Is there another state that want to make a presentation shortly before we move to the next item? Kwara State. Is Kwara State? Do we have a representative from Kwara State? Okay, all right. I think we'll move on to the next item. I have a presentation here. Let's see.
you are talking as a layman in electronics. You want to enable something. That means you press.
All right. So I'll take this presentation, and this is going to be the last presentation, and then we'll round up for the day. Please, can you put your mic on mute, please? Put your mics on mute. Thank you. Okay, so we'll be talking about value. We're talking about value creation. This presentation. Sorry, can we have everyone on mute, please? Can we have everyone on mute, please? Thank you. All right, so I'm going to do a very short presentation now, which is titled "The Power of Value Creation in Growing the Share Value Chain." We've heard about people talk about value creation, and I think it's important to emphasize this point. This is something that is very important. I think we can learn a few things from this presentation. This is a case study of the chocolate industry, and looking at how value creation has increased an aspect of the value chain at the expense of certain aspect. All right, so this is the global chocolate market is estimated at $106 billion as of 2019, and it's estimated to grow 4.6% over the next 5 years to 147 billion, right? So this is the upper end, the downstream end of the market. Now, if you look at the upstream, which is the cocoa beans part of it, is valued at 9.6 billion as of 2019, which is 10% of the global market for chocolate. You get it? So the beans, which is the production aspect, the farming aspect, which is where we Africans, West Africa, as a matter of fact, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, to some extent Nigeria, and other African countries, we contribute the bulk of cocoa beans. But if you look at the global chocolate market, it's what we contribute is just less than 10% of the global chocolate market. So you see that this is an issue of value creation, and I'm using this case study to make a point that we all in the share industry must begin to think value creation. Otherwise we may not be able to capture as much value as we ought to capture from the opportunity that share provides. All right. So the essence of this presentation is to give us a sense of value orientation, because I think this is the missing link over the years. We tend to be at the lower part, while those who are more value creation oriented, more consumer focused, they capture more value. Now, this is the second case study. This is the Nigerian bottling company in Nigeria. Because they focus on value, creating value to customers. The Nigerian bottling company has 197 brands in the Nigerian market, and it generates $595 million, which is over 280 billion naira turnover every year as turnover. Okay, so you can see the power of value creation. All right, and like Professor Paul Collier said, he said all successful futures for individuals and nations depends on the success of firms in the private sector. So this is very important. I really hope that we can learn a few things from these few slides about how we organize ourselves in business. Those of us in the share value chain, how do we organize ourselves to think value, giving value. We're going to see in the next slides what this whole value orientation is all about. So today I'm looking at some of the objectives from this presentation is to have a clear understanding between managing for subsistence and managing for value creation, because there's a key difference. Many of us have heard about the farmers, the smallholder farmers, whom we call subsistence farmers. Okay, The truth is that there are also SMEs that are managed for subsistence. And if you manage for subsistence, you may not be able to, attract capital. You may not be able to create value. So growth is impaired. So we're hoping that with this sort of, orientation, we can begin to change mindset, to look more broadly at managing for, for value creation. The other objective of this presentation is to use value creation for competitive advantage and then to attract money. Okay. If you ask most SMEs today, their major concern is how to access money, how to attract, how to get money. But the truth is that there is money. There's money to be, there's money available, but many of us cannot attract it because our businesses are not being operated for value creation. So we cannot really attract funding. The third objective, of this presentation is to look at the 7S framework to increase your market share, and then your business value, and then your employee retention. So you know that. Sorry, can you put your mic on mute, please? All right. Can we have all on mute, please? Thank you. All right. So the whole purpose is to instill value creation thinking, so that people can begin to think value creation, and then use that to build their businesses. The next slide will look at. So this is something that we can use as a checklist. How do you know you're managing for subsistence, and how do you know you're managing for value creation? All right. So these are two extremes. Now, if you are managing for subsistence, most likely you are more concerned about yourself. Okay. It's all about your personal needs, just like the subsistence farmer that we all know about, who farms maybe a hectare of cassava for his own family needs. It's all about himself and his family. It doesn't look at the market. It doesn't look at the international market. It doesn't care about what price the international market is saying. It's all about how to meet his immediate needs. So he's preoccupied with self. He doesn't have operational structures. He doesn't have business plans. He doesn't have shared values. There's no strategy. It's just about subsistence. How to sustain, how to keep himself going from that production. Growth is not a priority, so he cannot attract money. He does not use information, so evidence is not needed for decision making. Everything is just centered around convenience of himself. So it's all about self-preservation. Okay, and this we see in subsistent, operations. And the truth is that, aside from farmers, you can have this even in businesses and even in government as well. Even in association, an association can be run for subsistence. In other words, you're managing the association just to meet your immediate needs. So it's all about self-preservation, and we've seen that happen time and time again. Now, the other extreme is, and which is what we're talking about today, is when you're managing for value creation. So you have an orientation to do what you're doing because you want to give something, you want to give value, you want to empower people, your customers, okay, your investors, the community. You are putting other people first as against yourself, which is the flip side, which is the opposite of when you are managing for subsistence. You're preoccupied with your stakeholders. You are concerned with your customers. We saw the case study of a Nigerian bottling company. They have 197 products or brands in the market. They are always preoccupied with customers. They have retainership with the market research agencies. They're monitoring what the market is saying. They're always monitoring what consumers are saying. They use information from the market to develop and introduce new products into the market. They are always preoccupied with their stakeholders, their investors, the community, the environment. It's all about stakeholders. And then they seek for talent, okay? They know that for them to achieve their target and their goals, they must use talent. They need people who have the requisite experience and expertise, okay? So, and then they go for it, and they get the right people to man, positions, within the operation, so that, they are professional and they achieve their goals. The 7S principles is in place in those organizations that are managing to create value. Growth is a priority, and so they are able to attract money. They use information. and evidence to make basically all decisions. Okay, no decision is taken based on convenience or based on how they feel. It is based on information, based on evidence. Okay, and so these are two extremes. And I want you as a business person, whether you're an actor or you're a producer or you're an actor in the value chain or you're a producer, I want you to take a look at these two extremes and judge for yourself where you reside. Okay, because this is very important in terms of how we can grow our business and how we can capture more value from the share industry. So I'll go to the next slide, which is, I mean, we all need money. Everybody needs money. But the truth is that there is so much money available right now globally. There's so much money. And, we were informed recently that over $19 trillion are available that are being invested in negative interest yielding assets. $19 trillion globally are put into assets that are yielding negative returns. Why? Because these monies, the money is so much that they just need to put it somewhere. Okay? So, I mean, and we have value chains like our own share not value chain that we can actually attract capital to grow this value chain if we have the right orientation in terms of value creation. Okay? So the other point is that money is looking for home. Okay? There's so much money. And the way to attract money is to create value. All right? The way to attract money is to create value. And this is how some of these Western companies, they operate, Facebook, Google, all these international companies, they are very value creation oriented, and therefore they are able to attract, no matter the amount of funding they need, they can attract it because they are set up, to create value. All right. So I think we need to begin to imbibe such principles in our value chains, so that we can attract the right funding, from domestically and even internationally to grow the value chain. I'll just quickly run through this. So value means benefit in a summary. When you say value, you're talking about benefit. Okay. And this benefit or this value is defined by customers, by investors, by employees, and by stakeholders. And the value is created through the organization's purpose, strategy, and business model, taking into account the available resources. And value is delivered to stakeholders through responsible products and services, all right? And then it is sustained by retaining and protecting this value internally, all right? So coming down to the share value chain, you can look at all those who are concerned, and I think it's applicable to everyone, from the collectors at the park lands, to the cooperatives, to aggregators, traders, processors, the association, the government agencies and departments and ministries, the community, the service providers, the finance people, the consultants, and the information providers. Everyone can actually, work to create value. And that way we can capture more value within the value chain. All right. We don't have to wait for Westerners to come in and begin to, capture more value because we are not orientated towards, creating value. All right. So this is food for thought. I want us to think about these things. And as we begin to, develop the share value chain, it's important to know that, for us to, benefit from it or create wealth from it, we need to be mindful of, the customers. We need to be mindful of, the people that we're engaging with. Okay. I give an instance. Take, for instance, NASPAN. NASPAN is an association. NASPAN can actually create value by giving value to her members. Okay. If NASPAN use information from this program, for instance, to understand the areas where people are looking for, and they have needs or they're looking for assistance, NASPAN can develop products and services that gives value to such people, such members. And those members, they're very willing to pay their dues because they are getting something from the association. All right. So this is how it is, money comes from an exchange relationship. So you give something and then in return you get money, so it applies to everyone, even the government officials, the NEPC, the ministries that has to develop the policies that will drive investments, they can have a value orientation. They can decide to give value to the members of the share value chain, and people get, more interested and they can respond. The government can benefit from taxes. Okay, when investments are set up, the investment pay tax to government. Government use those tax to run social services, to support the industry. And I think that's how it's done all over the world. We can't be different. All right. So I think we need to, think about these things. Otherwise, we'll just keep talking about these things and nothing is happening because we don't have the right orientation that is required, to take advantage of these things. So information is important. As we move forward, information is very important. Data is important. We have to invest in information. We have to invest in data because, like we saw earlier on, the companies that are managing for value, they don't joke with information. They don't joke with data because they use evidence to make decisions. They allocate their resources based on evidence, based on information. They allocate their scarce resources because they want to create more value. So they don't base it on sentiments or, this looks right. No, it's based on evidence. It's based on information. And those who provide information provide the right information because, they just have to give value. All right. So these are this 5-step model for creating customer value. Number one, you need to discover and quantify needs. You need to commit to impact your customers. You need to create meaningful customer value. You need to assess, and evaluate your performance. It's very important. We need to evaluate our performance, whether we are association or even as a business person. You need to check to see how you have done in the financial year and what you need to do to improve. Okay, so these are steps for creating value, customer value. So these are the 7S framework I talked about. The 7S framework, starting with the shared value. Okay, the shared value means what does your company stand for? What do you stand for? In terms of your organization, what do you stand? What are your beliefs? What are your what's your attitude? What do you release? What's your culture? How do you do things? Do you want to give value? Are you created to give value? It's very important. And then the next one is your strategy. Okay, how do you plan to allocate your scarce resources to reach your goals? What are your strategies? What's your structure? Okay, how are you structured? How your divisions, the units, how they structured? What systems do you have in place? How do you get your job done? How do you get your activities done? Okay, you're a government agency. How are you structured to help operators in the share value chain? What are your processes? So that's your system. Okay, so if as a private company you want to attract funding, the funder wants to look at, do you have systems in place? Okay, your financial system, your hiring system, your promotion system, your performance appraisal systems, your information systems. All these things are very vital for you to attract money. And it's only when you are managing for value that you can really find these things necessary. If you are managing for subsistence, just to feed yourself, take care of your needs, you may not find these things necessary. And if you don't have these things in place, you may not be able to attract capital, and then you can't be able to grow that business or even take advantage of the global opportunities. We just keep talking about it, but we won't be able to take advantage of it because we don't have systems in place, we don't have structures in place, we don't have a strategy, we don't have shared values. The next thing is your staffing. We talked about talent. Talent is important. You need people to operate a system to achieve the desired result. Okay, so what's your staffing plan? What's your how do you get the right people into the right positions? All right. The next one is your style. What's your cultural style? What are your management style? So these are things that we need to put in place to make our companies ready to attract funding. Like we said, there's funds everywhere, and international funds are looking for opportunities where they can put in money. Why not in our companies? Why not in our organizations? Okay, but we need to be ready. We need to have this framework in place. The last one is skill. Okay, what are your distinctive capabilities? Within the organization. All right. So these are the 7S principles, and I think we are doing training on this concept of value creation. And if anyone is interested, let us know, and we can go deeper. It's a whole week-long training. And I think it's necessary for us to have this sort of understanding. It's a mindset orientational thing that people need to have. The world is a global village now, and there are funds, like we said, there are funds everywhere but those funds can only come to places where they can grow. The funds can be, the value can be created. And I've just given you a framework of how you can begin to, think value orientation, to be able to attract funding and to grow your business. All right. So I hope this was useful. And if you can take this contact in case you want to maybe learn more about this particular training, let us know, and then we can, have some time with you. All right. All right. So I think we're coming to the end of the presentation. We've spent a long time today, and I want to thank everyone who have still been with us. Thank you so much for your time. So just to wrap up what we have done today, we are going to move into action. Like we said, some of these things are things that should have been done a few years ago, but it's rather late than never. So we'll take note of your comments and the next step actions. We're going to move into action immediately with NASPAN and with the relevant government agencies that are relevant to this. So you'll be hearing from us shortly. So maybe as a last word, do we still have Mr. Ahmed Kontogora? Maybe you want to say a few words before we begin to wrap up the day. It's been a long day. Do we have Ahmed Kontogora? You want to say a few words to as we begin to wrap up? Okay, maybe he stepped out. Do we have any questions or any comment from anyone before we begin to wrap up today? I see some hands are raised. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, Mohammed, you have the floor.
Okay.
Yes, good afternoon. Please say your name and your organization.
My name is Mohammed Marafa, NASPAN Secretary, Kebbi State Chapter.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. These presentations, all the presentations so far were very beneficial to us. And because of the bulkiness of the presentation and the length of it, I'm requesting for soft copies of the presentation so that we can be making reference with them and have more contact with you people whenever the need arises.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so we're going to send it to everyone that participated. We'll send the presentations. If you can just leave your emails on the chat function, we're going to send it to everyone that has participated today for future reference. Yeah, we're going to do that. Yeah.
So one other question, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please, is there any provision for certificates of attendance for this particular meeting?
Okay, well, we didn't think about that, but we'll look into that. We'll look into that, and then we'll see what we can do. We can send electronic copies of certificates of participation. Yeah. All right. So let's come back to you on that. We'll come back to you on that. All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you so much. So we have representative from Afro Chamber. They are one of our partners, publicity partners, media partners. Afro Chamber is the Brazilian African Chamber of Commerce. So Brazil is a very important country in terms of agricultural development, and there's a lot that Nigeria can learn from Brazil. So we're happy to partner with the Afro Chamber of Commerce. So yes, please go ahead and give your intervention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. We are very glad to participate in this meeting. We also promoted here in Brazil all the things about these sections. We are very glad because here in Brazil, my name is Rui Mukaji. I'm the president of the Afro-Brazilian Chamber of Commerce. I'm also an African, but we are looking for business to be developed in our continent and Nigeria is a huge market for Brazilian companies. So thank you for the partnership, and thank you for the presentation. It was very good, and for everything. Have a nice day. Here is morning yet, but I think in Nigeria it's time to go to take some rest. So thank you again for participation, for all the events. We are be connected. We are partners of this initiative to promote agriculture in Nigeria with Brazilian companies. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your participation, and we look forward to engaging with you and your members to cement the relationship between our two countries. Like I said earlier on, but Brazil is very strong in agriculture, so there's a lot we can learn from Brazil in terms of services. So thank you once again for your participation, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you. All right.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead. Mention your name and your organization. Yeah, go ahead.
It's Samuel Guar from Oracle Star Shea Butter, Makwadi, Benue State.
All right, you're welcome.
I really want to appreciate you for a wonderful platform like this. We have enjoyed and we learned so much. And we're very pleased that Shea with this will go a long way to create more employment opportunities. And such platforms should always be around to keep us on our toes to continue to work to improve the Shea industry in Nigeria. As we enjoy this, if it takes so long for such a thing to come up again, maybe some of us will go to sleep. So we want this to keep coming, that will keep us on our toes. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for your intervention. So, I mean, you can see that the NASPAN leadership is really up and doing now. A lot of these things will be driven by the National Shea Products Association. So I'm hoping that a lot of the actions will be driven by the association, and we will complement and support and provide technical support. So yeah, so we're hoping for the best moving forward. Thank you so much for your comments.
Yeah. Can I
go ahead? Go ahead.
Commissioner?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Roland, I'm on the floor.
Yes, you're on the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I just want to sincerely tender the apology of my honorable commissioner, Investment, Commerce and Industry, who had earlier joined this platform, and he had to leave because he had another meeting with His Excellency in Abuja.
Okay.
So he said I should tender his apology, but it's also in line with all your mission and vision of this very stride that we have put in place. And whatever decisions we are taking, the Minister of Investment, Commerce and Industry, United States is also ready to partner with you and then create the new enabling environment and engagement that will actually make bring the development of the sector. And then again, support the leadership of the NASPAM as well as all other initiatives that will come on board. So sure. I just wanted to thank you so very much for this.
Sure. Thank you so much, Hamza. Thank you so much. Thank you for your comments. All right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. So I think we have Mr. Kotongora online now. But before you come up, hold on. We're taking a few questions, a few comments from participants, and then you give a final remark and thank yous. So can we take Pat Maka? Pat Maka, can you give us your question or your comment? Can you unmute yourself, please? Pat Maka. Your hands have been raised up since. Okay, in the absence of that, can we take any other comments or questions before I call on Mr. Kotongora to give his final remarks?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Usman Mohammed from Juggernaut Industries Limited.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So I'd like to commend everyone for the day's work. My own thoughts are, because we're in the production side of it, but we always have challenges looking for adequate testing and consistent testing. So I don't know if it's a section where you have either lab partners or recommended labs, or that's just one of my things that if maybe in the future, if you can have maybe bring some labs on to come and explain how it works and how to send samples and things of that nature. Because everyone seems to want SGS in Ghana, which is always a headache. So if we have we have a SAG group here who we're using at the moment in Lagos, but if we look at the aspect of testing and look for business partners, it might be easier for us to export and one consistent sort of standard.
Okay, can I call on Wumi from Global Shea Alliance to respond to that? Is there a testing facility that GSA is partnering with, or GSA has, to support producers like Juggernaut Industries? And then I also like Mr. Folabi of NEPC to respond to that as well. Thank you.
Hi, and thanks for the question, Juggernaut. Hope things are going well on your end. It's been a while since we've connected. In regards to your questions on testing, we do have affiliate members that could provide testing support in terms of like testing the quality of your nuts and stuff like that. But what I could do after the call is share a list with you, the ones that you could reach out to. But in Nigeria, I'm not aware of any particular one at the moment.
Okay, Mr. Folabi Bello.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Roland. Yes, as quick testing, thankfully, under the National Quality Infrastructure facilitated by UNIDO, we now have improved quality infrastructure in Nigeria. To see, we now have good accredited laboratories as well. So if you want to know which accredited lab accredited will be relevant to your product and close to where you're operating, go to the website of NINAS, www.ninas.ng, www.ninas.ng. You see list of accredited labs. List of accredited labs are there. You click on it. We have over 40 accredited laboratories spread across the country with the scope of accreditation. So whatever parameters you want to test for, you see the labs, you see what parameters they are testing for, and they are accredited to ISO 17025. So it's globally acceptable. So I think that should take care of the testing issue.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Folabi. Thank you so much. All right, do we have another last question before we turn it on over to Mr. Kotangora of NASPAN to give his final remarks? I will wrap up for the day. Any other comments? Okay, Mr. Kotangora, are you on the line? Are you still on the line?
Yeah, I'm on the line.
Okay, please, can you, we're rounding up now. I mean, it's been a long day, so we're rounding up now. There are a lot of actionable steps that will be taken after this meeting. So we are recording the sessions. We're going to tease out some of the action points and the next steps. So I think with that, we want to call it a day. So you just thank everyone, and then we can close the session.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roland. Thank you all. But just before I said my final remark, I want to check on the last topic on the issue of the lab for analysis. In fact, we as a NASPAN have already identified that as a key challenge. Key challenge in the sense that not that there are no laboratories that are doing analysis, we have a lot of them spread, but those being recognized by JSA and the other buyers internationally. we are taking it up. We have to take it up with GSA so that we make sure that those laboratories are recognized. For example, as part of our plan now is that we have asked all our state coordinators to engage with their various universities in the states to discuss with the chemistry labs and whatever to see that if they can do analysis. We give them the analysis parameters so that they should start doing that. Now, we as an ASPAN, if we are certified that we are doing the right thing, we engage GSA and any other body that will be certified. The whole essence is to show that analyzing nodes and water becomes so easy because shea butter analysis I'm calling is especially the shea butter is batch specific, which means every batch you do, you need to do analysis of it. So for us to be sending sample for analysis in various far away places, it can be a Herculean task. It will be also it will not be cost effective. So the best thing is for us to ensure that in every state there is a lab, at least one that is recognized and is doing it the right way. It's not going to be an easy task, but we'll engage all the relevant stakeholders to ensure that we have done that. That's one. We hope GSA will give us the necessary cooperation for us to be able to achieve that. And having said that, I want to thank each and every one of us, especially the resource person, GSA, the commodity exchanges and what have you, our members, and indeed you, Mr. Roland, who has been the man standing, who has also been the pillar behind the scene. You have done a lot for the share industry. To us as NASPAN, this is just the beginning. We will continue to do more and more until such a time that we are able to put the share sector in the world map, Nigerian share sector in the world map. We are really determined. We are really determined to make a success of it, to make sure that our women at the grassroots have to do a Herculean task of processing the node, because processing shea nut to shea butter is labor intensive. We'll make sure they get value for their labor. We'll make sure that we have a conducive atmosphere. We believe Nigeria Export Promotion Council intervention, we are going to be having common facility center for the women group, because with that we are able to, as keep saying, my concern is having quality, not quality butter at the right price, so that everybody will be happy across the entire value chain. That way we'll develop an inclusive market that is fair to everybody. Thank you, and we hope to see more of you. And please make sure that we move to the next step. Thank you, and God bless. Bye all.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Kotangora. Before you go, somebody was asking in the chat function how to register with NASPAN. They want to know how to become members of NASPAN.
We have state chapters. Depending on which state you are, you can be a member there, and we can avail you the number of the state chapter coordinator where you are from. And if your state have no branch, you can avail you the detail of the national ESCO. Then you can get registered. You can get my number, or you can. I'm sure that our secretary and actually all our ESCO are on board. Just contact me and Mr. Roland. Please let him have my number to call me.
Okay.
Appropriately. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you for your time. I hope it has been a rewarding, session today. Please give us your feedback, send us comments via email or whatever. We look forward to see you some other time. Thank you so much. We really appreciate. Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.
Sir, అయిపోయిందండి ఇది.